edition of the New Jack Swing podcast. And myself, I've got Sheldon, and Stevie is on his way. But Sheldon, how are you doing? Are you able to hear me, Sheldon? Yeah, I was
I
just
can hear
saying, how
you.
you
Yeah,
doing,
you broke up a
Sheldon?
little bit, but I can hear you
Okay,
better now. Go ahead.
okay,
I'm doing
yeah. I was
well.
saying,
Doing
how
well.
you?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. We're waiting for Stevie
Yeah.
to
It's been a
join
good
us,
weekend.
but
Good week. Hmm.
yes. Anyway, yeah, it definitely has been. But as before Stevie joins in, any sort of music news that we wanted to share?
Well, obviously the new edition, the residency. The tickets are sold out, so they're getting ready to get geared for that in the next couple months, which is good. Um, they're still touring. I think Johnny and I think it's Bobby, or I think it's Johnny and right. One of those. There's two of them going on tour. Belle Biv DeVoe did the Macy's parade in New York City. They did the parade. They were there on the float. Steve,
Okay.
what's up?
Good evening, folks. Good evening.
Yes, how you doing, Stevie?
I'm all good. I'm all good. Slightly later than advertised, but I'm here.
Okay. No, Sheldon was. We were just going through some music news. Okay, we got our. Hey, Colin, how you doing? Our guy Colin is in
Hey,
the house
Colin.
as well.
Salvage One in
um,
the house. What's up?
yeah. Anyway, and yeah, guys, just
Super
as I
fan.
said, just give us just shout outs as you come in. We always appreciate you guys being part of the show. Um, yes, and just some side news that Sheldon and I interviewed Mike Edridge. He was one of the founding members of the Neptunes, the Nerds, and it's kind of poignant that actually, as Tammy talks about her experience, Mike will be the next one out. So, yeah, he dropped a lot of good stuff in that. So, can't wait. Yeah, we just did finish it yesterday, so can't wait to share that. Um, yes, Mikey. But yeah, so Stevie, how has it been for you?
Yeah, it's good. It's obviously we're not far from Christmas now. It's it is feeling a bit Christmassy. The temperature's dropped here in the UK. It was been a very shivering cold weekend, hasn't it?
Yeah.
How it is where Sheldon is, but
it's pretty good. It hasn't gotten colder yet. It's about maybe we're still in the 50s. The weather's still hanging on, still nice. We haven't dropped down yet where everybody's super bundled up. Big Mike.
Yeah, but anyway, just quick music news. It looks as if, I don't know if you saw that Tamir and Joe are going to do some dates next year.
wow.
I mean, which would be hot, doing so. And actually, I like the fact that these guys are doing these kind of combo stuff, because because what we're getting normally, it's normally the groups. We get the 30 groups showing up and stuff, but I do like old school flavor. Chin Beats, well done. How you guys doing? I do like the fact that some of these things have been a little bit more creative. So like a Tamir and Joe, having two different fans. Frankie Beverly and Maze and the Isley Brothers are going to go do a tour next year as well. So those type of things, it just seems as if they've been doing shows and tours all around, but somehow I think the Legacy tour has really made sort of has changed some of the venues and promoters. Like actually there's a big market for R&B legacy acts, and so they're getting the big stadium, the big tour, the big places like that. So it would be good to see them. For us in the UK, we only wish they come here.
Charlie Wilson is going out. He's headlining his anniversary tour, and he's got about 8 groups going on with them. So I love the fact that a lot of these people, even though on the record side it might have slowed down, but the tour situation is still intact for a lot of these people.
Yeah. Okay. Some quick news. So now we're a very positive show. I know Colin has asked this question about Aaron Hall getting mentioned in the Diddy scandal, and unfortunately for us, I mean, I did try and reach out to Aaron about a month ago, so to come on, and I think because he has not shown himself in glory in a previous interview, which might be the reason why he's in trouble now, why this whole thing is coming up, is why he doesn't want to talk. And so, yeah, so we try and keep ourselves away from it because we don't know all the facts and stuff, and you know, and but yeah, it's yeah, for us to just celebrating our music, and we'll celebrate Aaron as the singer he used to be, and what he did for New Jack and stuff.
I mean, what I will say about the P Diddy situation is, money can get you out of a lot of trouble. If you've got a lot of money, you can get out of a lot of trouble, and that's what is happening right now with Mr. P Diddy. Fair play.
Yeah. The other thing we wanted to I think, let me see. No, yeah, it's fine. Yeah. As I say, we don't know what's happening with those guys, but Andre 3000. Did you get the album, Stevie? Because
I did get the album. I got sent a clean copy of it from RCA.
Okay.
I've not listened to it. You know, shame on me, but I will check it out.
Okay. Yeah, I saw an interview he did for, is it Vogue? I can't remember what. I think maybe GQ. Yeah. He talked about the stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's you know, it's different, and I one of the things I have to respect about Andre is the fact that he's saying he's evolved and he can't do the same thing that he used to do when he when he was younger. So he doesn't flow, he doesn't rap, and he just wants to do this stuff. So I have to respect that. No, did anyone get the Busta Rhymes album? Colin says
I did actually. At first, I listened to it and I thought, oh, you know, I was like, oh no, I can't do this. And then I gave it a listen again, and I found 3 tracks, just 3 that I really liked on it, and the rest of it I can't handle. I've got Busta Rhymes, I've got all these other albums. And how many albums are you buying these days that have more than 3 good tracks? So it's just another album with 2 or 3 good tracks on for me.
But it's Busta's amazing because
man. Yeah, I bought the last one that came out like 3 years ago. It was great. This one here, he went in a different direction where he's like Big Mike said, you're trying to fit in, even though he always could fit in with younger acts. He was doing the features, but I don't like the fact that he did an entire album with a lot of these new people. You know,
I was hoping the track with Burna Boy was going to be good, but it wasn't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very disappointed with that track because I thought we might get a good rap Afrobeats collab here, and I just thought, no, this is just not happening. And it sounds like he was in one studio putting his rap down, whereas Busta was probably in Lagos recording his vocals. So
yeah.
It just didn't mesh very well for me. But there is, you know, there's 2 or 3 good tracks on it, but.
Yeah, because they made a big deal about getting Timbaland, Swiss Beats, and Pharrell. You know, almost like the trifecta. But as I said, you know, like Andre 3000 says, "Look, man, I've moved on, so I can go classic, or just don't. You know, just try. Yeah, you know, you could. You know, he could have done a collab with Mariah. Could have just stayed in his lane and gone people to get that. But anyway,
yeah, the
Sarvis One said Jean Baylor from John A is performing in Europe right now. She's part of a jazz combo with her husband. And she's doing pretty well, you know, releasing material and touring around a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, the Busta Rhymes, the tracks that I liked, the track called Could It Be You with Blast and Young Blue. There's a track with Chris Brown called Open Wide, and there's a track called Legacy, which had a really good bass line on it. I like that one as well. And the rest of it, not for me.
Wow. And just finally, before we go into our show for today, Dal Simmons released his Christmas album last year. He came back. He came on the show twice to talk about it. And actually, I was really honored the fact that when he did a shout out, he actually remembered me in his shout out. But Christmas with You, if you guys are looking for a Christmas album that's written and produced by Daryl Simmons, who was part of the LaFace production team. He got a lot of artists who aren't really well known. The only one who probably was known is Tina London, who was American Idol, and I can't remember Derek's surname, but he's now the lead. He's now part of After Seven. But majority of the people are just people that are local in Atlanta, in this area that performed on it, and it's just a beautiful album and stuff. So, Christmas with You by Daryl Simmons, if you get a chance to get that out. But hopefully, maybe not Christmas show, which you guys you can come on. We'll talk about our favorite Christmas albums as well. Yeah, but that was a good. As I said, I was surprised that he just called.
Well, looks like Namdi's froze on us.
He just gave me a shout out. Right. So, on to today's stuff. We're doing our favorite female artists, singers. Was this harder for you guys than male?
For me, it required some kind of thought, in terms of why I liked some over others, some more than others. A lot of thought.
I'm sure it was easy for you, Stevie. You would have just gone through.
I'll be honest. In terms of male groups, male singers, you can define a top 10. You can put down a New Jack top 10 groups. You can put a New Jack males down. In terms of female singers, you can't. I had a look. I thought, because you've got them in three areas during that period. You've got the crossover ones that had they had dance on the album, they had pop dance, they had some swing, and they had some R&B, but they weren't a New Jack female artist. Then you've got the soul singers, which there'll be a lot in, I'm sure, in Sheldon's top 10, who came out of the 80s, possibly the 70s, that moved in to the early 90s, still carrying that big vocal, may have had a few swing tracks on them, but they weren't New Jack female artists. So even my top 10, the New Jackers are going to be disappointed today. Even my top 10 it's the most varied one, and there's a few shockers in there. There's a few shockers in there, folks. But as I'll explain, because I've been rummaging around my collection, digging some CDs out, and I put them in those bands of like for example, this album by Alison Williams. Not a New Jack album, not a pop album. There was everything on this album. You had soul, you had hip hop, you had like street soul dance, a slight bit of New Jack, but this was a big album at the time, a very big album. Great album cover.
Yeah, her
great voice. She crossed over.
Yeah,
they were a New Jack artist.
There was
I'm saying
that was a big record.
Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you, it's like she had a.
My Love Is So Raw.
And over here in the States, Raw was like my favorite record on there. But the record that was really big here in the States that was really popular was the ballad Just Call My Name.
Yeah.
The ballad was really, really big. But I always liked Alison Williams. I loved her. And people don't realize with Alison Williams, she was the rare groove, the boogie R&B in the early 80s. She was singing that club stuff before she got down with Def Jam, background in club groups and stuff. So yeah, she'd already been around by the time. She used to also sing on rap records. Curtis Blow used to make rap records, and she used to sing the background vocals. Wow. So by the time she did that album Raw, she had probably been in the business for like about 10 years before that.
Wow.
If you think about it though, I feel like someone like Alison Williams, because she really didn't get past 1992. I mean, the album after this had your good friend on it, Kyle West. He did some tracks on the album on a set, but she's been forgotten now. And I think, I'd like to see an unsung about her, and she deserves to get her flowers, I think. But didn't make my top 10, but she's definitely worthy of a mention on this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed to
interview in the future. I'm sure she's got a lot of stories to tell.
Okay. I mean, that's gotta be stuff that we can reach out and do. I'm really embarrassed that in my top 10, one of my favorite people, Miss Jackie McGee, didn't make my top 10. I really feel for Jackie, because she knows that she's been on the show, I think 4 or 5 times and always shouting out loud. But yeah, I had to
Well,
look at.
She was one of the few, you could say, one of the few New Jack female artists. She's one of them in a very small circle. You know, her album, she had to wait till 1992 to get a solo album out. But we knew, same with Tammy Lucas, we knew what was going on. Her vocals were on other people's records. We'd heard her voice. We knew how good it was. We were just thankful we got an album. When the album came, it was very New Jack, and it had some traditional soul ballads on it. But
Yeah.
a few.
Yeah, no, yeah, Colin's right. She's right. Jackie knows I love her, and especially when you know, we Keep Sweat posted the 35th anniversary of Make It Last Forever. So it's not the album, it's the single, and you know, I think Jackie was the voice of that era. I mean, Jackie's the way she delivered that track. You know, I don't think anyone can, and no one can come close to her how she delivered it. You know, she did Express Yourself for Salt and Pepper. She was the one singing that.
Yeah.
She sang with Journey.
Yeah,
She sang with oh goodness, what's the name of these guys who did Ghetto Heaven?
Family Stand.
So she was on. She was with Family Stand. She, you know, she did some. Yeah. So Jackie is, but she's just a beautiful person. So
it is a question for you guys and to any of the male.
Chimby, that was her on. Sorry, that was her on the track, and with Stanley Brown with production. Express Yourself. Go ahead, Stevie. Sorry.
I know we're talking about voices and ladies that could really sing, but did the way a singer look or a good looks sway you to get into her? Because I'm going to be honest, it did. There was these female singers in my top 10 that, you know, I was like, wow, I was just besotted by at the time. And maybe they couldn't sing that well. Maybe they could. But I got into it because of the model looks. It really did. Really did influence.
And that's
to say it, but it did.
And that's why a lot of artists, man, who were like out 70s and 80s, man, they basically, I don't say they got ran out of the industry, but they were really upset. One particular person that was on my list was kind of upset about that because they could sing. I mean, they had a good look, but they really couldn't sing. It was like producer driven and all of that. And, you know, they were getting all over the videos and the records. They were getting more publicity and stuff. So, you know, yeah, you're right. The look, by the time you got to the mid 90s, yeah, man, mid 90s, early to mid 90s. Now, you know, think about the audience is younger. So yeah, anybody that's like 30, 35, 34, 35 years old in 90, think about it, man. If they're 30, 35 years old in 1990, they're born in like 1955, bro. You know, so 1958 or whatever it might be in the mid 50s. So even though they're young, mid 30s, you know, the industry is skewing younger.
Yeah, but for me personally,
that's like us.
For me personally, I was mindful of that, and I you know, none of the people in my top 10 had the image that I looked at. It was really based on just the voice, something different, something that you close your eyes and you listen to, and it's like, wow. So but I was very much aware of how the industry was going through that, and so, but I wanted to focus on
the other big thing probably at the time was, or probably any period, is how hard it was from a lot of those female singers to really make it, what they probably had to go through. Did they use their looks, for example, to climb the ladder in the industry? I'm being very PC in what I'm trying to say here. Did they use their looks were they taken advantage of? Did that help them? There's so many stories. Like I say, it's been very difficult if you're a good-looking female singer and you're meeting producers, managers. I'm sure they were taken advantage of to get to where they wanted to go.
Well, Mickey Howard said that. So, you know, even though I need to get Nikki Howard back on the show, because when she did the interview, there was a lot of factors. I think it was hot in LA. She just forgot about it, and so she just kind of put it together. So it wasn't one of our best sit down interviews, but she did mention that. Look, man, it was tough. for women, and it is still tough for them to on shows. Lauryn Hill, she's had to postpone her shows because she says, "Look, I come late, and people are saying that I'm coming late, but they don't realize I'm a mom. I've got so much happening. It's not easy. Like it's not easy as the guys, but yet she gets labeled for that. So it's been upsetting. It's been challenging for females and stuff. But anyway, yeah. I mean, do we? I think I went first the last time. So I think Stevie, you've got the honors of starting us off.
I've got a top 20 again, but obviously we're going to start number 10 for time factor. I'm going to mention 11 and 10 because I really wanted this artist to go in my top 10 because she's got an incredible voice, probably one of the best voices you'll ever hear. Phyllis Hyman. Might surprise Sheldon, that one. Phyllis Hyman had an amazing run of albums from I'd say the late 70s on Buddha, Philly International, into the 80s, even got into the 90s. Then very, very sadly and she took her own life due to she suffered depression, she suffered loneliness. You can hear it in her songs, in her music, but I love her voice. It is sad to listen to her. It's hard to listen because of what happened, but some of you may know the track from the 80s called Ain't You Had Enough Love, which was originally produced by Carl McIntosh for a lady
from Loose Ends.
Yeah. And then Phyllis did a cover of it and took that record to a whole new level. But this album in 1990, Prime of My Life, does have a New Jack Swing track on it called Don't Want to Change the World, but it's a great album.
That was her biggest record. That was her biggest record.
Yeah. But that's my number 11/10. My number 10 went to probably the best female vocal talent the UK has ever produced. That's a big statement I'm saying there in terms of soul and R&B, but I dispute anybody to touch this woman's voice. Number 10 goes to Misha Paris for me. I think hearing My One Temptation in 1988 and that album in the UK was everywhere. It was just Island Records really went to town promoting her. My One Temptation. She'd worked with Will Downing. She worked with Bobby Womack, did some great B-side tracks, but her voice in terms of like coming out of the UK is the best. I don't think there's any UK singer really, possibly Karen Wheeler could touch it. Possibly the girl from Loose Ends, but she's for me is like the queen of
Eugene,
soul and R&B in this country. And she had a good run, Misha Paris, from the late 80s into I'd say the mid 90s. She still got it today. She presents on radio too. Brilliant soul R&B talent.
Yeah, I remember her. That's one of the first CDs I ever bought, man. Like back in '88, I remember her, the one that came out before that one. And the first time I think I heard her, she was singing a song with Will Downing. It's called "Don't Give Me Up," and they're both singing. And yeah, man.
They did a duet.
The album that came out.
Yeah.
Where was the love? Where was the love? Yeah. I like that. And she has some nice up-tempo remixes of some club records. Yeah, I love
the second album, Contribution, did have some like street soul, New Jack type flavored. She worked with Blacksmith on the remixes, so it went very clubby from there on. But yeah, just a great voice. Love a voice. And Phyllis Hyman again, just a great voice.
Sheldon, who makes your top number 10?
My number 10. Okay, so what I'm gonna do real fast. I'm gonna run through my alternate real fast, and I'm gonna go to my top 10 in no particular order. This is my outside. It's Janet, Athena Cage from Cut Close, Patrice Rushen, Patti LaBelle, Evelyn Champagne King, Faith Evans, Jody Watley, Karen White, and Regina Bell.
Great list.
Those are my almost they didn't make it. But my number 10 is Brandy. Brandy's my number 10.
Good start.
Wow.
So I had to put her in because I had to go ahead and kind of spread it out and have across multiple eras. But I would say Brandy, reason why she's my number 10 um, is because of her. She kind of like, even though she kind of like separated herself from the, she stood out with the productions that she had. You know, back in those days in the 90s, man, you had a lot of female singers, man. They were like a muse of the producer. It was an outlet. The
Mhm.
female voice was the outlet for the producer, but she stood out on those productions. And when you look in terms of that first album that she had, people talk about all the other albums, Never Say Never and all of that, but to me, the
Yeah, the
epitome
first
was
album.
that very first album. I mean, her is
Mhm.
just sing, and she was singing like a young person. She wasn't singing records that were like sexual, or she wasn't singing those type of records. She was singing it from a young person sitting up in my room, and she just had that whole charisma and a great energy in her voice, and she could sing. So
Yeah.
that first album is one of the greatest debut albums by an R&B singer. And of course later on she did very good. You know, when she got down with Rodney Jerkins, it kind of like took her to the next level. The people who worked with her before were very great, but then Kenneth Crouch, yes sir, you know. But then when she got with Rodney Jerkins, I think that was her uh person that she really thrived under. So when she came out with the second album, it was just great. And even still, the albums she put out, they weren't. I didn't like them as much, but I like certain songs that I heard that caught my ear. So I would say, very classy singer, pure singer. Probably, coming out after the post Whitney and all of that. She's probably the best pure singer of that 90s going into the 2000s. Pure singer, no
Okay.
studio, no nothing. So yeah.
Great, she's
Okay.
great live as well. I did see her live at the Manchester Apollo.
Yeah.
You know, I do remember. I'll never forget the day I walked in the import record store, and my friend who's behind the counter, Leaky Fresh, went, "Steve, I've got this record. Just come listen to it." He's going mad. He's going absolutely. He goes, "Listen to this," and he gets the 12-inch out of "I Want to Be Down," puts it on, and at the time I was in college and I just didn't have much money. I wasn't working, and I just said, "Please save me a copy till Tuesday." Coming on the Tuesday, and he put the needle on. I was like, "Oh my god!" When I first heard "I Want to Be Down," these Spotify generation now don't understand hearing going in a record shop and hearing a record play to you for the first. They don't understand it. But the needle went on. "I Want to Be Down" started. I'm like, I was just like, "Oh my god!" And I just went, "Please," I had to, "Please put a copy in a bag for me, and I'll get it on Saturday." And I did. You know what I mean? £6.99 at the time for the import 12. The second occasion where I seen the effects of a Brandy record was when I was DJing in a club in the late 90s, and I was warming up for a guy DJ at the time who was quite big in my area, and we'd both been sent from East West a copy of The Boy Is Mine, a promo copy. And I was like, "I'm not sure about this record." It just plods along. And he's going, "Steve, this record's going to be massive." I went, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Just wait, let me." And he played it later on, and the whole floor was packed when that was played.
Wow.
Every week,
Yeah.
out, huge record.
It's a beautiful debut album. Actually, it's my favorite album, and I sort of stopped. I didn't really get into Brandy after that debut album, because I just felt, I think I liked her enunciations and how she sang in her first album. I didn't like Full Moon. I just couldn't hear the difference in how she was singing. But it's just me personally. Um, Before I get to my number 10, I didn't realize. Yeah, before I get to my number 10, one of the three tracks that didn't make it in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, no wonder. Yeah. My number, some of the ones I wish I could have put in were Lauryn Hill, as I mentioned, Jackie McGee, Shantae Savage. I really did like her versatility in her stuff, and Shantae Moore. I think she's gotten better. She's gotten older.
Ooh.
I mean, if you start seeing her performances, City Winery and stuff, she just seems to be an incredible. But I'm going to start with my number 10. And this is somebody that I saw when I worked briefly at Edmonds Entertainment when I was in LA. And I saw her and I heard her debut out single, an album, a couple of months before it came out, and I knew it was going to be a smash hit. And there's something unique about how she sings, and that's A. Marie.
Wow.
As I said, I mean, not only was that her debut album just something refreshing and different, but I loved the energy that she had in all her subsequent songs and how she sings with that pitch and stuff. It was just something different, and I think what I liked about her is that she didn't sound like anyone else. I mean, Rich Harrison had amazing production, but she sang differently. And so it's not like today where you hear a female singing, you're not sure who it is, it's just one of the many. She was different, she was unique, and she sang high tempo R&B. People might say that it got copied by someone more prominent called Beyonce, but she really held it down. So that's favorite. That's A. Marie takes that for me.
Yeah,
I love A. Marie, man. A. Marie, and
so go on, Sheldon. Can you hear us, Sheldon?
Yeah. A. Marie, that first album, man, I really liked it. It was a very breezy type of vocal range that she had. It made you feel good listening to that record from beginning to end. There wasn't a lot of extra going on. Like the music didn't overshadow her and all of that. I just, and people I've heard that they've said Beyonce's took her style, but no, Rich Harrison was just the hot producer at the time, and everybody was going to him. J-Lo was going to him. Beyonce was going to him. I've heard the other A. Marie records, the two. I bought the other two that came after that, which were really great. I love the up-tempo style, but that very first album, people talk about classic. That's a modern classic, man. I just love it. Was very, it made me feel good. It's like when you listen like Brandy's first album.
Yeah.
That's the type of feeling that you get. Yeah, great choice, man.
You got to see the time period when A. Marie came out. I mean, the major labels at the time were pushing R&B, but not like pure R&B. They were pushing like a big pop club hip hop sound of R&B. And A. Marie's album was it was a breath of fresh air. It was like, yeah, here's something that she can sing. The songs are really good, very memorable. The production is kind of different, like you say. A lot of the samples with the meters, especially with Rich Harrison. But like you say, it was at a time when major they were chucking money at R&B at the time, but not the R&B that we'd kind of come through on the 90s. It's more of a big commercial. They were trying to make it pop. They were trying to make R&B pop at the time. And A. Marie came along and went, hey, hold on a minute. Here's some, this is what R&B's always been about. And yeah, good. Really good.
Okay.
But you know what? I think what also made that record really great, that whole entire album, was the fact that Rich Harrison produced every song on the album. Normally, when you got one producer, there's a lot of continuity there. Unlike an album when you got like multiple producers producing the album. So I think Rich Harrison producing that entire album gave it that appeal as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, it's good. What we up to? Number 9 now? Is it number 9?
Number 9.
Just a few artists that were around at the time that had, again, crossed genres in terms of music and kind of been forgotten now. Great album cover, this, A Diva. You've got all sorts going on this album. You've got house, garage, you've got street soul. I wouldn't say any real new jack, but it's just a brilliant album. What an artist she was. And Beautiful Love, who can remember the remix? I think Frankie Knuckles, Dave Morales did the remix. It was a very good slowed down street soul mix. But that again, late 80s, that was a big selling album,
Yeah.
Big selling album. Again, unsung, totally unsung, slightly forgotten, I'd say. Another I'll be honest, I was not into her at the time.
Nina Cherry.
But this, you got to say, she opened doors for a lot of other artists. In terms of what I was never convinced by her vocal and even her rapping. But with hindsight, from what I'm hearing now, I think, you know, let's give her some credit. Again, this album was quite genre defining. It blended a lot of different stuff. There is a new Jack track on this album actually, but it did veer on the side of pop, R&B, hip hop, dance, but very unique artist. And I like I say, I've appreciated her years on rather than I just didn't appreciate it at the time.
Yeah,
Anyway,
she was on MTV a lot. She was on MTV a whole lot.
Yeah, Buffalo Stance. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
but in terms of my number 9, let's get back to the new Jack. I'd say this artist you could say really did represent the new Jack swing sound, who did cross over big time. But I would say she was a new Jack artist. Some would argue with me, but it's got to go to Miss Karen White. Worked with Jam and Lewis. Worked with LA and Babyface. Your good friend. Your good
I
friend.
love Karen.
A lot of memories of Karen White. A lot of big hit singles. 3 albums. She gave us 3 albums at the time, which were all very memorable. I seem to play this one the most though.
Oh,
To finish.
that's strange. I mean, I prefer the first
I really
one.
enjoyed this album. I don't know how she feels about this album now, but you know, you got Jam and Lewis on. This is the album she didn't work with LA and Babyface, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, Christopher Troy and Zach Harmon, Lainey Stewart. I thought this is a brilliant album from start to finish. So
Yeah.
that's my number 9.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Karen was dope, man. I'm gonna tell you, the very first time I heard her, she was on. It was a jazz guy, jazz keyboardist. His name was Jeff Lorber, and she was the featured
Jeff
singer on his album. And he had a record called "The Facts of Love."
Yeah.
And she's singing that. And when I heard that, it's like her voice just jumped out the speaker. It sounds so good. And then I saw her on Soul Train performing. Then a year and a half later, she comes out with the album, the very first album. I'm like, that's her, you know, and it was a big deal for her to come out of that. And then, you know, I Love the Way You Love Me and the Superwoman or whatever. But yeah, Karen White, yes.
I mean, as a performer, you know, people look at Beyonce, but you know, now, or say Tina Turner back in the day, and if you go back and look at some of Karen's performance shows, she, I mean, currently right now she's doing amazing, but back then she was just, you know, in high heels doing stuff. I mean, she was, and then she toured with Bobby on that "Don't Be Cruel" tour when they went to Japan and stuff, and so she's amazing performer. She was an amazing vocalist. She did all the background stuff on Johnny's first album, you know, like Fair Weather Friend and all the LA and Babyface production on the Johnny Gill's Prerogative album. Is it Prerogative? What was it?
My album, Johnny Gill.
Yeah,
album.
my vocals with Dow Simmons and Face. Yeah, she's she's amazing, and I love the fact that she supports us over here as well. So yeah, good choice. Sheldon, what about yourself?
My number 9 is Tamia.
Oh,
Tamia is another one. Just listening to her sing, it's just beautiful voice. And when she sings, even like the earlier songs that she sang, that was when she was coming out with Quincy Jones, like "You Put a Move on My Heart," excellent. So even though the songwriting, even when it started to actually change, you know, it still worked for her. She sounded really good, and just when I listen to her sing, it's almost like she's having a conversation. You know, she knows how to deliver a song very well, you know, and I love the fact that she's able to kind of like adapt to the different vibes of music. Because remember, You Put a Move on My Heart was like 95. She was juke joint, you know, and for her to continue to really just put out records and they sound good, beautiful voice. So she's my number 9.
You got to talk about I'm So Into You, though.
Yeah, and then she made another one that was almost similar to that. She did it with Fabulous. It was just like, I forgot, you know the record, Stevie.
No, the first before Fabulous, she came out with I'm So Into You. She released
Yes.
that on her own, and it came out in 1999. I remember it because it was my #1 record in 1998, and I was playing it in the club at the time.
So yeah,
and then
that
Backwards brought it out after.
yeah. So that record was written and produced by Tim and Bob, and so they wrote and produced it. And they got Tamir to co-write it with them, like how Jim and Terry used to do with Janet. So come on, let's write this together. So she co-wrote it. Fabulous came out with when he came out with track, he didn't let them know. So they called up, said, "What the hell? What's going on?"
Okay.
And so they had to switch it and get her to feature on it because they're like, "Dude, what's this? No permission, no nothing. You just came out with his stuff." So that's how she featured it on it. So, but yeah, Tim and Bob, yeah,
That's a classic to me. It's gonna last. That's gonna be played.
Yeah, it is.
That's a good story.
Years,
Great
it's
story.
20 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it. My number 9. It's strange. I'm almost feeling as if I'm going to get shut down from mentioning this person, but this is pre. This is. I think she is probably one of the top 5 entertainers, great entertainers, and that's Beyonce. And this is, I think, her last great album to me was sort of I'm Sasha first. It's a Collins Isaac. It's like I know people are gonna be like Beyonce. I mean, but you have to look at how she doesn't use auto-tune. She sings live, she performs. But this was, I love Sweet Dreams. I love the way she, the whole Destiny's Child stuff. She, but if you listen to Daryl Simmons, I mean, everyone who's seen her when she was like 5 or 6 said that she was always a star. She was always working hard. She was in the studios while everyone else is playing. She's been that person. She studied Michael. So, I know, so since she got married to Jay-Z and she's taking things to another level, she's not this, she's kind of poisonous. A lot of people like, nah, we don't like Michael, Beyonce. But when I just see her just perform and I see her sing, I have to give her that respect. And she made some great stuff and stuff. So, as I said, I don't know what has happened where we just don't, there's a generation of us that just don't like her anymore. But I have to give her respect, though. She's, of what she used to do, and from Destiny's Child, and she had carried it. She's just, and that's you're performing as well. I don't know, So that's
think about what you just said. Think about what you just said, though, is that she's been out now because she's been out long enough. When you've been out that long, 25 years, she's been out almost 25 years now. Really, she come out in 97. So now we're talking about 26 years. So she's coming up on 30 years being out. Think about that. So when you've been out that long, of course, you're not going to be loved throughout your entire part of your career. But I'm going to give it to you this. With Beyonce, people have their opinions about Beyonce, especially when they compare her to other singers. But I'm going to tell you with Beyonce, man, deserves the respect because one thing I like the fact with her is that you can't duplicate her. You can't duplicate her. Normally, sometimes you'll have like a singer that will come out, like it might be like a Janet Jackson, and all you got these imitators. But with Beyonce, you never had that. And one of the things that Beyonce was able to do is she was able to transcend producers. Normally, like I said, the producers overshadow the artists, and Beyonce's was able to do it. And I love the fact that she puts out, like you said, a lot of stuff with the Destiny's Child, like Girl and some of those other records they were putting out on the Destiny Fulfilled album. And then, of course, the first couple albums, Crazy in Love, B-Day, and a couple other records. I love the fact that she's the anthems. That's something that's really underrated in terms of an artist being able to put out anthem after anthem and see the fans take to her. You're talking about, you just don't have younger fans. You've got older fans that have that in their 40s, but again, Beyonce is 42. So, but people really take to her. And I like what a writer said. Beyonce is not necessarily an originator, but Beyonce is able to filter in a lot of different energies from other influences and she puts it out through her music, you know, and she's consistent with what she does. She's not an Anita Baker, you know, she's not a Diana Ross or anything like that, but she comes in the tradition of a Diana Ross, because a Diana Ross was a Beyonce before Beyonce. But I like her because she's consistent and she gives the anthems that she has. People connect to them, and one thing is that you can't duplicate what she's done. And people are gonna, last thing I'm gonna say, people are gonna kill me for this, but she's the Michael Jackson of her era. She's the Michael Jackson. I'm gonna say this last thing. When you look at Beyonce at 42 and you look at Michael Jackson at 42, in terms of career, she's much further along than Michael Jackson was at 42 than Michael Jackson was at 42. At 35, she was further along her career at age 35 than Michael Jackson was at 35. You see what I'm saying? They start out with groups, they go solo, and her consistency, don't get me wrong, we know who Michael Jackson is, but as a female artist, you know, she's this generation's equivalent of Michael Jackson in terms of her career trajectory, you know, in terms of that. And think about it, man, is that I won't say she's just getting started, but she has another gear left in her, man, at 42 years old. So I give her that, you know.
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's very hard for her to fail, because again, I'm going to go back to the late 90s into the early 2000s again, where record companies were pushing pop R&B so big. Because you know, I used to get sent all the time records from Sony Music. I had a guy on the phone who'd call me saying you'd have to return to get records in the post for free. You'd have to do like a return a top 20 chart to the record companies, to all the dance magazines. And I'd have the guys from Sony on the phone going, listen, this Beyonce record is our number one priority this week. Steve, we need you to put this Beyonce record in your top 20. And I'm like, you don't even... I said, you know what you need to ask me? Do me a favor, send me that new Jagged Edge CD. I'll stick it. I'll make sure it's in my top. That's what was going on. That is what,
but
think
about what you just said. Think about what you just said, Stevie. Is like she's part of the, people look at she's part of the machine. But you got to look at it the same. That's why her and Michael Jackson parallel each other, because Michael Jackson was also in that Sony machine, in that CBS machine.
You know, she had, you know, even I must admit, when I bought the first Destiny's Child album, I looked at that cover, I thought, and listened to her voice, I thought, they've got to make her solo. Whoever this Beyonce, she's got, and she did. She went solo, and you know, she's in the. I suppose to be a stadium filler as an artist, you got to be single-minded, extremely hardworking. You can't take that away from her.
Yeah,
What she did to get to the top, and that is hard as an artist.
Yeah,
but Stevie, you said something about them. But Stevie, you said something about the machine, and you're right, because when Brandy put out her album, she put out an album maybe about almost like 10 years ago. And what happened was the music industry, they changed the R&B chart to where they turned it. They created a category for artists who weren't they weren't R&B. They called it rhythmic something or another. And Rihanna was in that category. And that was like the dominant R&B equivalent category. And when Brandy put out her album, this must have been around like 2012 or something like that. They said it didn't fit in that chart, and they were trying to make her like an adult contemporary artist, because they had, like you said, the industry had changed not the label, but they changed what was in terms of the branding, the label. So when Brandy put out an album, it just didn't fit. But you're right. There's a lot of pop R&B coming out during that time. But again, you got to talk about, there's pop R&B coming out in the 80s at the same time. So just like Sony pushed Beyonce was the priority, there's a moment in time when Sony's pushing Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson's the priority. So, but yeah, like you said, just being able to and think about it, Sony is not only domestic, Sony also has a global arm. They're global. So they call it you in the UK. Hey, we want to make this record number one in the UK. So Beyonce benefited from the fact that it's hardworking. She was a star, but you can't underestimate the label's role in pushing her, because there was an argument that a lot of other female artists weren't getting pushed in the manner that Beyonce was. But when you sign to Sony versus sign to Warner Brothers or whatever that is, Beyonce got that star treatment, man, and she delivered every time.
She is a record company's dream. She looks amazing. She can sing. She can dance.
Dance, yeah.
And she probably could write a song as well. I've no doubt about that. But she was around at a time when, like you say, major labels. A lot of these younger R&B artists around now who are like don't understand why they can't get a deal, or they're wondering why R&B just isn't that big, or they're saying that R&B is dead. They've got to understand that the time we came through, we've seen it big, we've seen it shift, but major labels did throw millions and millions at R&B during that period. Probably for the wrong reasons. They were trying to make it pop, but they're paying the price of that. They're paying the price for that period we went because the company's all amalgamated. Obviously streaming came along, and it's cut. But anyway, what number are we on now?
Yeah, we're number 8. Yeah,
right. We might as well, in terms of like, and this segues nicely into my number 8. Probably my first shock addition into my top 10. This artist was born in Scotland, was known in the 80s, late 70s, 80s as a pop singer in the UK. And then towards the late 80s, she signed with MCA Records and went in the studio with LA and Babyface, with Prince, with Angela Wimbush. And when I was looking through my top 10...
I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
I'm thinking... I came across her albums. I thought, my God, I played her albums all the time. I was besotted by the way she looked at the time. And there's no doubt this girl can sing, but it's going to be a shock for a lot of people. 2 great albums on the R&B swing tip. Easton, looking absolutely stunning. You got What Comes Naturally. There's a track on this album called We Can Swing It, which is an incredible New Jack Swing track. Check Sheena Easton out, these 2 albums from the late 80s, early 90s at the time. I love this. Well, I still do today, but brilliant singer, and obviously a shock addition to my top 10.
I thought you was going to throw a curve and say Scotland, but then, by the way, we got somebody from Australia, Kylie Minogue. That's why I thought you were going to go ahead.
The Lover in Me, just as good as Karen White's LA and Babyface track. Lover in Me. 101 produced by Prince, Cool Love produced by Prince, Fire and Rain, What Comes Naturally. Kind of, again, I would say a bit unsung.
Wow.
But great, she had a great voice. My number 8.
Sheldon, who makes your number 8?
Is my number 8. Obviously from the beginning, to me, Shantae Moore has never made a bad record, even though I didn't like some of the later production when she was trying to do, we talking about early 2000. I didn't really, but it was some of it was still kind of good. But Shantae Moore was dope. And the thing about it is that she can sing anything. She can sing like jazz, Nancy Wilson, like one of her most recent albums, Look Who I Saw Today, who you actually you talked about what's the young jazz singer? You talked about her not long ago, Stevie. Samaya. I forgot her name.
Samira Joy.
Samira Joy. Yeah. So she did the record, Look Who I Saw Today. She can just do, and then I love the ballad she did with Keith Washington. Just, very smooth, very sultry singer.
Mm.
And I love the fact that she's still out there. Very great tone, like you said, Saint. Great tone. She could sing the soprano high, range, and the whistle register, like Mariah Carey or whatever, and she can just do it all,
Yeah.
That window when she was rocking on MCA with Lil Silas, Magical Time. She did a great duet with Damian Hall, Satisfy You. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
perfect singer, man.
she's another person when we talk about females who've had to pay the price in the industry, and she's, you know, she started off at Warner Brothers, then she went to Silas, and being such yeah. So she's yeah. A previous guest has I have to be mindful what I say, but yeah. So she's had her ups and downs, but she's in a better place now. And if anyone goes on, yeah, she was married to Kenny Lattimore. She's now married to Stephen Hill, who was a former BET executive, and she just do some amazing shows. I mean, if you see her now, she's killing it. Performance, whether it's on BET Awards or just her City Winery, she is somebody whose voice just seems to have been taken to another level. So that's a good one. My number 8
hold on, let me just comment about Shantae Moore.
Go ahead.
Great bit of A&R in terms of who she worked with, because whoever decided the label she should work with producer Simon Law was an absolute masterstroke. Simon Law was a UK guy, worked with Soul to Soul, white guy, piano.
Yes.
And they don't mention this a lot about Soul to Soul, but he had a lot to do with their sound, but he doesn't get credit for it. And he also had this street soul classic. He just had this vibe about him, and you hear it on Love's Taken Over. You hear it on that, you know, and he produced a few of the tracks that had that very percussive piano. Again, great bit of A&R, but Simon Law working with Shantae Moore. Please put them both in the studio again and just make a whole album with that sound. Because it's like when Kenneth Crouch worked with Brandy, it's like it works hand in hand. It's just, I think there should have been a whole album with that sound. But yeah, great bit of A&R. Go on,
yeah. This was hard for me because I wanted her to be a little bit higher up. But my number 8 is Faith Evans. I wanted her to be higher up, but I had to, yeah, because when she came out with Soon as I Get Home, actually, when I listen to that now, I can go back to where I was when I was in university. I can feel the pain and the sort of the yearning for love in that track. I loved her debut album, and her second album when she had Love Like This. When that came, when that song came, it didn't matter what I was going through. If I was in a club, I had to dance. That was like, okay, yep, that's my song. Doesn't matter what's happening. I need it. It's almost as if she sings on the record. She just almost like she doesn't rush it. And unfortunately, people were comparing her to Mary, but she always respected Mary. But I just loved early Faith stuff. And you can hear her in a lot of the stuff that she wrote. She wrote stuff with Chucky Thompson on the Usher debut album. And you can always hear her background. She's just amazing with her stuff. So I wish I could have taken her up higher, but I just loved her. I did enjoy she doesn't sing as good live, and this is probably why she's a little bit lower. Because when I'd seen her live, when I lived in Wisconsin, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did on the record. So she might have changed up a little bit, but Faith and Chucky were an amazing combination.
Yeah, her first 4 albums, man, I loved them. I bought everything that she ever did, though, man. You know, it's just the second one, Keep the Faith. I didn't buy. I bought like certain singles. We Can Dance, and then Love Like This. But you know, I went back and revisited that second album, man, and it was just really, really, really good. Like the tone of her voice and just that mid-tempo. She just can do it all, man. She could do the ballads. And then the one she did, The First Lady, that was really well. I love that one as well, too. Yeah, man. It's just, you know, they don't make singers like her, man.
Yeah, and Stevie's had an opportunity to see her, interview her face to face, you know.
Yeah, it's a bit of an unforgettable experience. I saw her live, and I took a chance on try to meet her, try to interview her. I just remember
You get
at the end of the gig asking for the tour manager and saying, I told her which radio station I was at the time. Said, "Is any chance I can get 10 minutes with her?" And somehow it happened. Don't ask me how, it just did. And I ended up getting backstage. And the first thing I said to her was, "I've got something of yours." And she goes, "What is it?" And I said, "I've got a bunch of demos you recorded while you was working at Uptown Records." And she was taken aback, and she was like, "How have you got hold of them?" I said, I can't tell you how I've got hold of them. But and then she was like, I said, "Look, can we start the interview?" And then she gave me about 20 minutes of her time, and she talked about a day's working around Mary J. Blige, what was going on. Because before she got signed to Bad Boy, she was working with Ike Lee and the Three Boys from Newark, and she recorded a bunch of demos, which I wish you could hear them. And I'm still trying to find. I don't know where that CD is with them demos on, but they'll just go on.
in your stash of CDs, it's somewhere there.
You know, if you like that New Jack hip hop soul sound from about 90, 92, 93, oh my gosh, you know, they probably never get heard though. But yeah, when she got signed to Bad Boy, that debut album was just what a great album.
Yeah, I love that debut album. Yeah,
about working with Aaron Hall.
Oh, I love that song they did together. All the thing, yeah, all the places or whatever. Yeah.
There was that, and there was Soon As I Get Home on the remix.
Soon As I Get Home.
But I asked her as well, when she did Love Like This with the big Chic sample, I said, "Have you heard the big Chic record?" Well, it wasn't a big record, it was just an album track, Cheek Cheer. I said, "Had you heard that record before you made Love Like This?" She goes, "Yeah, I'd actually heard it." And he said the original chorus of that wasn't Love Like This, it was something very depressing, and it just didn't sound right with that sample, and we had to change it and then come out with Love Like This. But the interview's on Halftime Chat somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do check it out. It's only 10-15 minutes long.
Yeah, and she's good on that Heartbreak
and
Hotel.
and believe it or not,
go ahead, Sheldon.
And for the holidays, like we have a department store chain here in America called Target, and they're playing Love Like This as the holiday song on the TV commercials.
Wow.
There is a remake. Someone's done another version of it recently, haven't they? It's very poppy sounding. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
It's not her though, is it?
Yeah, that's the one they're playing.
Yeah.
That's the one they're playing on the Target. Yeah, yeah.
So Steve, who makes you number 7?
Number 7, I had no idea that compiling this top 10, I'd end up putting an artist in my top 10 that was born about 3 miles away from me and was brought up about 3 miles away from me, but went on to have like one of the biggest albums of that year, crossed over not only in the UK but into the US, and had a great career. But Miss Lisa Stansfield, incredible voice, great voice. I mean, when you hear her talk, you think, how can she sing like that? But this album, what a great album this is. Again, it had that kind of crossover,
that's a big record,
pop dance sound. Obviously the big single,
she had the American.
Sorry, go on, Sheldon.
Yeah, they were that wreck. I mean, Stevie, you got a good choice there, man. When she came out in 90 or 91, whatever that album came out, it was a big deal because, like you said, on the heels of what Soul to Soul was doing, because when you listen to Soul to Soul, you're hearing the strings, and they were when she came out with Been Around the World and it had all the strings, they were really made the connection to her and what people like Barry White was doing, because Barry White had a lot of symphonies and symphonic strings, and they wound up doing a record together. It was just really, really great. But yeah, man, I used to be in the club when that record would come out, and people loved it, man.
Yeah, Stansfield was killing it. I was in Nigeria in boarding school when that came out, and it's very rare for a white singer to be impressive in Nigeria in the music scene. But that song didn't seem like a white song or black song. It just felt like a good song that any culture could.
It's just such a warm. It's
I don't know how that track crossed over across cultures. So I'm not just saying like crossed over from pop to R&B, just crossed over across cultures. And she gets respect within the black community. When they hear that track, it's not one of those like, oh yeah, sometimes we talk about people trying to steal our stuff, but we don't feel like, it doesn't seem like we feel that way with Lisa with that particular album and track. So it's
it is for all the viewers. Go and watch after this episode. Go on YouTube and watch her performance of "You Can't Deny It" at the Apollo in Harlem. Go and watch it. Listen to her sing live, and how she hits them notes. There's people in that crowd are just up. They're just blown away. That she's seriously. She's hitting your ear. She's touching the heart. Right, just great. But yeah, Lisa Stansfield is my number. Is it number 8 or number 7?
Number 7. Number 7.
Number 7 could have been higher up, but great memories of seeing her live as well.
She had a foggy voice, like it was like a smoky type voice, and it reminded me of, it was a UK group that came out in the 80s, and they rolled all the way over until like the early 2000s, called Swing Out Sister.
Oh yes.
And it was and the female singer, I forgot her name. I just had it on the tip of my tongue. They had that same jazzy, smoky vocal style or whatever. But yeah, very, very good.
I forgot
good choice, man.
I forgot to add, before she went solo, she was in a group called Blue Zone. And again, for any of the soul people will know about Blue Zone, because there's a track that Blue Zone did that it's a very big Manchester street soul track that still gets played today. So check out Blue Zone as well. And obviously, listen, if you go in any charity shop in the UK, you'll find at Lisa Stanfield down with 50p. They're all there. And the best 50p you'll ever spend, or 50 cents or whatever
Yeah, Colin, you're right. Breakout. Yeah, that was the Swing Out Sister record, the first record that came out with Breakout. Yeah. My choice,
number 7.
Number 7 for me is, I got Mary J. Blige for number 7.
Ooh.
Mary J. Blige for me is number 7 is because when I heard those chin beats laughing, I'm gonna try to get through this without laughing, Chin. But with Mary J, the reason why I had her number 7 is that it was just like, when you look at the female singers that were coming out at that time, she just really stood out with the type of music that she was doing. I remember I heard You Remind Me. I was like, who is this? And I had to ask my sister who it was or whatever. I was like, wow, she sounds good. And of course, I'm hearing the other records, and it was just a joy to listen to, what's the 411 and everything that she did after. But I love the fact that she was the one female artist that kind of held her own against male artists, not so much as just in terms of duets, but in terms of her catalog. And she could hold her own, not against just R&B male singers, but against rappers. And then when she started doing the duets, man, she could hold her own. Obviously, she comes out of that era where a lot of singers are not necessarily technically sound in terms of ability, but Mary had that appeal. And obviously her catalog, man, she's got some great records. And people talk about My Life, how great it is, and it is, Dawn. But when you start looking at, it was like a Keith Sweat situation when she got a second win putting out the Breakthrough and the other album that came after the Breakthrough.
Yeah, that's my Share My World is my favorite Mary album.
Yeah, Share My World is dope. And then the Mary album, very soulful. Just a lot of, she's got a lot of great albums. And even though people talk about what's the 411 and the one that came after that, My Life, obviously those are 2 great albums. But I love the fact that she didn't just disappear after those first 2 albums. Her records were still good. And for me, my favorite Mary album is probably the Mary album. Very soulful. And I love how the fact she connects the dots between past and present. So Mary's my number 7.
Yeah, so she's also my number 7 as well. As I said, Share My World is my favorite Mary album. But to think about what she did, what's the 411, then My Life, and then she takes it to another level with Share My World, and then keeps just going on and on. And people can say, yep, she got great producers, but the one thing that we loved about the My Life album. Now, a lot of people might say, yeah, it has a lot of samples, but it's the delivery. It's the delivery of Mary. You could feel somebody singing truth. You know, and it's very rare. You know, that's the one thing that I never understood. You know, when I used to watch the American Idol, and they say, you know, you have great singers, but they weren't really telling a story through their voice. And Mary never stopped telling stories through her voice. You know, and she also, her music mirrored her life. You know, failed relationships. You know, the situation with KC when they were going out, and the sort of abuse she was getting with it. Then she had a husband later on, who also went through the stuff. So she was singing what she was going through, and you listen to it, you can feel the pain, you can feel everything through that. And you know, yeah, as I said, as a singer, she's undeniable. She's got, as I said, amazing career. She's still going on right now. She's still going strong. So yeah, she made my number 10. She was my number 7.
I mean, it's interesting the way
and
the main. Go on, Sheldon.
Yeah, no, Stevie, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's interesting the way major labels reacted to the success of Mary J. Blige during the hip hop soul years of the 90s, because you had artists like Trisha Covington came through on Sony Columbia. If you want more of a Mary J. Blige fix, you need to get yourself a copy of this album, work with Dave Jam Hall. Again, just a one-off album. She's still going today, but a good little album this. Joya is another artist that you should really be checking out. Worked with 3 boys from Newark. That's a great album, that. She did some demos after it, but she never really got past that first album. And then there's this lady called Veronica, worked with your good friend Dark Child. This produced 1995, Nandy.
Wow.
Dark Child, Full Force are on this. Dallas Austin.
Wow.
Great little album. This just didn't blow up. Didn't really take off. She had 2 albums out, but like you say, Mary really did influence that 90s hip hop soul sound, didn't she?
Yeah.
And one of the things about Mary is that Mary didn't get washed away with like the new era, because she comes out in 92. Right behind her, you talking about Brandy, is Monica, is Mona Lisa. No matter who was coming, Mary always had that slot. Even when you start getting into a window when Beyonce's coming and Beyonce's really doing her thing, and the A. Marie's and everyone, she's still hanging on with, you know, Growing Pains and that was and the Breakthrough. So she was able to just maintain her spot no matter what. And think about it, and then to influence other people. You're talking about you not having a Keisha Cole without having a Mary J. Blige. You know, just her influence in terms of that. But she, like Mike said, she you know, in Saint T, she held her own for decades, and she created a generation of clones with the hip hop vibe and the dancing and all that stuff like that. So when you got to look in terms of what she was able to do, always got top notch material. And the thing is that Namdi said, her life was the thing, the driving force behind the record. So even though she was putting out those albums, they weren't necessarily strict. They weren't like concept albums, but they might as well have been, because her life was her life was the undercurrent. It was the creative undercurrent for all of those albums. So yeah.
Mary J. Blige.
Yeah. Stevie, who makes you number 6?
Couple of more albums was playing a lot during the mid-90s. Who remembers Raj Nay signed to Jam and Lewis's label Perspective? Don't know who remembers that one, but I had a lot of fun with that. I had a bit of a crush on her at the time, but there was a slight bit of New Jack on this, but it was mainly like ragga, R&B. There was all sorts going on, but yeah, good little album that. And you can't forget this later, Dina Howard. Wow. I mean, I must admit, you know, my hormones were going when she came out. Do you want to ride? I mean, what an album this was, Dina Howard.
Somebody posted a video of her performing recently, like this is about like last week, and she had the heels on, and you know, she got to be about 50 years old, and she was still doing it, man. So yeah, Dina Howard, yeah.
What number are we on?
Yeah, number
6,
six.
7.
Number 6.
Number 6, yeah.
It's I kind of chopped and changed, but she had to be in my top 10. Again, very sad this, but she did do an album that changed. It did change the sound of R&B and took it into a whole different, another direction. She's an artist that obviously we grown up with in the 90s, but the Y2K generation have held on to her. They've took her, still give her a whole new leash of life. It's got to be Aaliyah, 1 in a million. You know, the story of Aaliyah is well documented. This is, like you say, the Timbaland sound on this album changed a whole lot. I remember hearing it in America at the time when I was over in America, and I thought, wow, I know it slowed down. It was a slow sound, but I was hearing beats and structures in the beats that I thought, I've not heard this before. This is amazing. And she didn't have the greatest voice, but she was a star. She had a style that was, you know, at the time it was fresh. And these girls that still dress like her now, this is what I'm saying. The Y2K generation are all kind of dressing like her even now. Crossed over into movies, but gone too soon, as Michael Jackson would say. Gone too soon. It's heartbreaking when she passed. Absolutely, absolutely heartbreaking. But she might.
That's a good choice. When I first heard that album, I didn't like it as much because at the time, the music didn't. When I used to like make tapes and things of that nature, the music didn't blend because Timbaland's style. It didn't blend in with the other music that was out. But it gave her own lane. And you got to understand, man, is that when she came out with R. Kelly and the records that she had, Back and Forth and At Your Best, you know, you're talking about that was like the equivalent of Rodney Jerkins and Brandy. So for Timbaland to come out and now replace her as R. Kelly's, you know, producer, and then to come out with those hits. Because now it's like when people talk about her, they don't talk about the R. Kelly stuff that she did. It's like, are you that somebody? The 1 in a million. It's almost like whatever she did with R. Kelly. It's like her career just really. He was so prominent in what she was doing. It was like her career started with that 1 in a million album. That's crazy. And those two albums, it's a 2-year gap between those albums, man. So yeah, very, very good choice. Very good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably one of the only people that really didn't like her that much. I guess it's because I didn't like her intonation when she sang, and she was different from what a lot of the 90s females were doing. Most of them came from church and they were singing in that, so I got used to that type of vocals, and she was different. But she sounds like a lot of female R&B acts now sound like how she was. Hence I liked the stuff she did with R. Kelly because I could hear her. I think when Timbaland took over, the beats became more prominent and she was singing over the beats, and so that was probably me just thinking, you know, I'm listening to Timbaland and a female singer over that, as opposed to when she came out in the first album where I could hear her vocals, like At Your Best, even Back and Forth and stuff. It was her. So that was just me, just preference. So but you know, as I said, a lot of people would think differently. Yeah.
But you're right, because it was like you heard the melodies in her voice.
Yeah.
R. Kelly captured her perfectly, and it just so happened that, you know, Timbaland came along and different direction, and I think it helped her. It set her apart from everybody else, and then she was doing more dancing and everything else, and then that was what it was. But I think, in terms of those songs that she did with R. Kelly, very great records. You know, but for her to go ahead and have a second act and continue,
you
know, with Timbaland, very good. But I see
the day that news broke, and it was so hard to take that the plane took off and exploded or crashed. It was just because there was too much weight on the plane. It was just hard to take, you know, knowing that. She was just crossing over then. She was just having real big hits.
Yeah.
But when you look at Rock the Boat was kind of like a return to what the R. Kelly Back and Forth, At Your Best, that type of situation. I loved that record. There's a couple records that she had, and then I like the songs that she did for Romeo Must Die on that soundtrack.
Try again, and
Yeah, but then again, as I said, that's what I hate Timbaland, and that was my issue with her when Timbaland did the productions, that he overshadowed. It was his beats and somebody singing over them, as opposed to Rock the Boat, where you're hearing her singing, and the music didn't overpower the vocals and stuff. But as I said, she is unique and she's different, and she was different during that time she came out. There was no one sounding like her. She was different than Brandy and Monica and anyone else. So I have to give you that. She was different.
So many artists that she influences now. There's
yeah.
called Leia, which to me, she just seemed to have ripped off a whole sound. It's like, what? Yeah, I can understand you being influenced, but it's like you're trying so hard to sound like her. It's like, what, you don't need to. You know what I mean? You really don't, be influenced by music. But don't try to sound exactly like.
No.
Bit controversy there, but
Sheldon, number 6.
Number 6 for me is Toni Braxton.
Oh, okay.
Toni Braxton's my number 6.
Namdi's in a bit of shock.
I loved her vocal. I had her. I love Toni's. She had that alto voice, and again, just being able to sing all types of songs. I mean, you talking about the very first Toni Braxton album? That's a perfect album. That's a perfect album from start to finish. I think then the second one, just when you thought the first one couldn't be topped, she came out with what's the name of the second album? It has a one name. Came out in 96. What's the name of the album?
Secrets.
Secrets. There you go. Yeah, Secrets. It's just, she had a lot of big records in there. Just really, really great. And then, of course, I think Secrets, she peaked at Secrets. And then when she came out like in, I don't know, like 98, The Heat, that was cool. So she was trying to go to a more trendy. I think Rodney Jerkins or somebody was producing her then. So it was going toward
Rodney,
a more.
and Bryce did some stuff with her as well. Bryce Wilson,
Yeah, Are You Man Enough? And then she did, and then she did a record. I did an album called Libra, and it was called. And that album she was doing a record like Rich Harrison produced the song, and it was like the Beyonce record, the A-Marie record. But it was cool, She still was good. But those first two albums, and The Heat was coming, great. I mean, those first two albums, killer. But yeah, Anita Baker, man. I mean,
Toni Braxton.
Toni Braxton. Obviously, Anita Baker was supposed to do the first album, and she didn't want to do it, and she recommended Toni Braxton or gave her the cosign, whatever that story was. But yeah, I love Toni Braxton's tone, and I loved her delivery.
Yeah. I mean, I did like her. I loved her first album. I think she, if commercially, she probably should have stayed in the lane of the first two albums, like a Celine Dion, and just continued that way. Because when she had another love song, what was that in? Breathe Again, and all those songs that were just not as last. So yeah, so when she was in that lane, she was doing that Celine Dion, sort of selling 10 million stuff. Then I think she was like, oh, look at these young girls. I need to be like them. And she started dressing, doing all and I think that's when I kind of lost it. Like, look, but you didn't come on that lane, and you're trying to keep up with that. And, and it mirrored her album sales dropped as she started to try and become trendy. She stopped selling as much and stuff. So,
and believe it or not, that age, man, because Toni's born in 1967. So she comes out. And it's in that era was like the last era you could be older to come out. So think about it, man. Is Toni Braxton is like 26 years old, 25, 26 years old when she comes out with the first album. Second album comes out 4 years later. So she's about 30. Yeah, she's 30 years old. So think about it, is that even though you're young in music industry years, you're kind of older. So now everybody else coming out. Think about it, whether it's Black, all of those groups, 702 and all of that stuff like that. She's like 20 years older than them, but 12 to 15 years older than them, and then she's trying to go into the lane with the clothes. She's changing up a little bit. So I see what you're saying. She's trying to, but the industry is what it is. It's skewing younger, man. But
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Gerald saying that she would have been pigeonholed if she had stayed in that ballad, adult, contemporary. But that's it's in the business. You're making music, but you're trying to sell records and stuff. And
That Daryl Simmons interview you did, Namdi, revealed something incredible, because maybe her career wouldn't have gone in the direction it did if it wasn't for Anita Baker turning down some of them songs.
yeah. But I'm listening to Anita.
That was.
Yeah, but Anita says, "What about this girl? She sounds great on them. Give it to her." And he made it seem as if, yeah, okay, we'll do it. But it was like being able to recognize that she had something different and unique. And as I said, I love what she did with how Babyface got the best out of her and stuff. So yeah, Tony, she was unique and different. And I think this is what we're going to with that. We're picking females that don't sound like anyone else. I can't tell you the difference. Now I can't tell the difference with the ladies right here. They weren't copying anyone else. She might have said she was copying Anita, but she had her own style, her own vocal. If you ever see Tamara, her younger sister, trying to imitate her, like she has the kind of low range and she has a voice, but that's her style. And so yeah, she did her thing. My number 6 is, and I wish I could put her higher, but I think she was a definition of somebody coming from the church and just taking that voice and being different. And that's Coco from SWV. My biggest gripe with SWV was the fact that I never liked the lead singer and followed and then background singers. I always wanted the whole group to interchange. That not said, Coco, it was unique, powerful vocals. Men in Black, whether she's singing, I'm so into you, Weak and Rain and whatever it is, she just, and she had to, she was different. She was, it's strange because I know when she came out with her own solo album, the thought was she was going to blow up, but the industry had changed, and even though she had the production, the industry had changed, and it's hard sometimes to see. Because she wasn't like a performer, how Beyonce was a performer. She was a pure vocalist and stuff. So to step out and try and do it like that, probably it just, probably people just visually just couldn't pick that. But different voice, different power in her voice, and really that whole New Jack. Well, even though Brian Alexander Morgan will always say that he was anti-New Jack, but she was definitely part of the sounds of the '90s with SWV. And the ladies are looking amazing now. From a group that almost disbanded and went away, right now they're probably one of the more preeminent groups out there. So yeah, Coco, yeah, Sunshine. She has had some really great ballads, and still amazing.
So, yeah, they got their second win, man, or third win in this era here. And I see them. You see them. You see she's in lost weight, got a nice new hairstyle, the whole nine. They looking good. But when you see them, you're right. I think that with her, she had a unique voice, and when she put out the album, it was a thing where people just sometimes when you're a lead singer, and the perception is the lead singer, no matter what, they can do no wrong in terms of the material they're putting out, but people love the group. They just didn't respond to her as a lead singer because they responded to the group that much stronger. But, in terms of the female voice in the 90s, well, even if you just take out the 90s, she's one of the ones that when you hear her sing, it's her. It's not anybody else. She has a full voice, and just can sing, man, everything. So, yeah.
Stevie, who's your number 5?
I'll just do a quick rundown of a female artist who did the New Jack sound very, very well at the time, but didn't make my top 10. A few surprises, done a bit of digging. I'm sneezing a bit because the dust has come off these CDs. This lady's a Latin artist called Niobe. She worked with Teddy Riley. The first
Teddy Riley, I love the way I got the 12-inch. Yes.
Can't Let Go. Oh my gosh. Can't Let Go. Can't Let Go. I love the way brilliant Teddy tracks. Only 3 tracks, but You know, one for the new Jackers. This, if you've not got it in your collection, Miss Joyce Fenderella Irby, Hey DJ, and She's Not My Lover, kind of stand out on, you know, really good new Jack tracks, solo album there.
Hey man, Stevie, keep that CD to the side because I'm trying to get her. Keep that CD to the side because I'm trying to get her on the show, man.
Couple of albums from this young lady, Tyler Collins, Girls Night Out. She had a little good run in the early night. Didn't blow up.
Wow.
Worth mentioning, Tyler Collins for the new Jackers. Who else? One album from Tisha Campbell. Great album, this.
Yeah, she could sing. She could sing. She could dance. She had everything. But I think
brilliant album, this. I haven't listened to it for years though. But great addition. Michelle A didn't make my top 10. Worked with Dr. Dre, of course. It's a big album at the time. You know, Michelle A had a lot of.
I forgot about her. Yeah, man. Yeah.
She nearly made. She should have been in the top 10.
You read my mind.
But come on, man, we got to mention Pebbles. You know, them 3 albums she did on MCA. All got some great. Giving you the benefit, LA on this. Some great stuff on that album. Letitia, who we have been trying to get on Halftime Chat. I think that interview will happen in the new year, but signed to Motown, worked with Basic Black, Dallas Austin, the characters. This is a great new Jack album, this. She did 2 albums as well. Obviously, we mentioned it before, Jackie McGee's, it's been recently re-released for streaming, and she said she's going to release a whole bunch of songs that were recorded for an album after. So obviously Jackie McGee, she's been on Halftime Chat, but I love her so much. Angie, of course, 2 albums for Atlantic Records. You need to get these if you're into new Jack. And then how did she not make my top 10? Shanice didn't make my top 10, but what a voice she had in a child album. She had a good run, Shanice.
Well, she was a victim of the fact that her mum knew the industry, and the industry didn't like the fact that they knew the biz contract, and they pushed it to the side. So yeah.
Number 5, though, I won't say much because we talked about at length, but just taking that iconic album cover and that logo for a name. Yeah, brilliant.
It's so understated. What's the 4-1? I mean, it was like a street album. You're right.
I mean, the only story I can tell behind this is the day come in the record store. I met what would be my very best friend today in the record store. He was a DJ, he was a collector, and I remember saying to him, I stood next to him. I never spoke to him before. I stood next, and he was buying the Mary J. And I said to him, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this Mary J. Blige?" And from then on, we got talking. And here's one for you, Sheldon. He had a DAT tape in his pocket. And he pulled it out of his pocket and he went, do you know what's on this DAT tape? And I said, no, mate, I ain't got a clue. And he goes, have you heard of this group from the 80s called Clear? And I went, Clear? I'm going,
yeah.
I said to him, the only Clear record I know is Intimate Connection. He said, well, this is.
Yes, yeah.
You know what it was, Sheldon? It was the new Clear record on a DAT. He goes, I've just got the new, it's a demo. It's on a DAT. And they've asked me to do something with it. And that spawned, that's another story. That could be a Halftime Chat story one day. But that spawned a great friendship when that Mary J. Blige album came
Stevie.
out. So
my man Nat TV 55 said you didn't eat in the 90s because you spent all your money on music. Right?
Yeah, that's my number. What was it? Number 5.
Yeah, that was your number 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mary J. Blige.
Sheldon, who's your number 5?
My number 5 is Mickey Howard.
Oh.
Number 5 is Mickey Howard. Mickey Howard is one of those ones that can sing everything. You know, she can sing gospel, she can sing jazz, she can sing R&B, dance music. You know, being able to go ahead and come out with records, you know, from 80, 85, 86, doing like the quote unquote the Quiet Storm type of R&B that was popular with Luther Vandross, to Phyllis Hyman and all of that. And then to do jazz records like Good Morning Heartache, Billie Holiday type stuff, and still do some mid-tempo new jack. But unfortunately for her, when she was coming out. If you've ever find her TV show on YouTube, they did her show, they did her life story, and she went through a lot with men, producers trying to control her career, and they were like, and also the whole Whitney, she was coming out right when Whitney Houston was super hot. So during that time, all the labels were trying to come out with female singers and Mickey people, and it was pressure. They wanted her to be like a Whitney Houston, and she was like, I'm who I am. So, so between the men, trying to control her career and then label issues or whatever, and she went from Atlantic, went to Giant. And again, when you decide to go ahead, you're trying to get Cassandra Mills. So she probably got some great Mickey Howard stories. And, I'll share one is that Mickey Howard was in the office with Jade and Cassandra Mills or whatever. And, there was some shade that was there. And Mickey Howard just did like a Christopher Williams and just turned the whole office out, So, during that time period, Mickey Howard just underrated. And of course, the other things that she went through were kind of like, her career started to kind of derail, man. But a lot of it, man, her music stands up. Come Share My Love, Love Under New Management. The record album she came out with Ain't Nobody Love You Like I Do. Just, man, 93, that 86 to 93 window was really, really good. And everything else that after that was cool. But that 86 to 93 window, yeah, Mickey Howard being able to sing, then the record she was doing with Gerald Levert, she was on fire, man. She just didn't have the record sales like Whitney Houston did. They were trying to push her to do that. But she had some number one album, number one songs. She just didn't have the huge record sales,
Yeah. I mean, definitely. And, she was, someone said I should try and get the interview. Yeah, I did interview Mickey. And, Mickey was, yeah, I mean, so some people may ask me in some interviews that I don't prepare enough, and I over prepared for Mickey Howard. I kind of watched the end song, I watched everything, and when I came to the interview, it was like, yeah, what next? And I was like, oh my goodness, and I was so intimidated with the stories that probably wasn't one of my best interviews, but and we but she's vocally amazing, and I had to, and she did say, look, as a female, that she's gone through a lot, and they still go through a lot, so that's definitely a good choice.
I mean, it's I've got her on albums, but I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up, I never play them. I can't. There isn't one Mickey Howard album that I know back to back. Just maybe I should, because obviously I've got too much music.
You know what? If you listen to her songs, she doesn't have a definitive album like a lot of other people have, but she's got like jewels. She's got jewels on each album.
I did find recently, that jazz album she made for Giant Records. It just it seemed to bomb. I thought this was the album that bombed, and obviously because there was no R&B on it, there was no, there didn't seem to be a big single on it at all. But
that's the one with the flower in her hair, right? That's the one with the flower in her hair, right?
I just didn't. But I did find that recently, and I thought, I'll get that. Give it a try.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I need to listen to the interview I did with her again, and then try and get her back on and really give her space. My number 5 is a lady who's featuring quite prominently right now, and that's Tammy Lucas. I wish I could have gone higher up with her. Everyone knows that Teddy is, when it comes to music, for me, everything was Teddy Riley. And to find out that she was the voice going back to Goodbye Love, I didn't realize that she was in there. She was on I Like. She was, and she, if you see the interview, she's talking about how they stacked her vocal in the chorus of I Like. Tonight, I love Coco, but I just thought that she should have been given her opportunity to shine in that. What's that? And stay with what's the guy's song? Let's Stay Together. That was that's one of my favorite guy song, and she's singing all the vocals in that.
Yeah.
Doing all the back. Let's stay. That's all Tammy. I Like His Style with Big Bub. just My Cutie with Rex and Effect. I mean, she pops up there. She just brings her voices in and stuff. Um, then she but this is the time she's saying about how all these places, she even said in the Heavy D stuff, they didn't want her in the video, and and I remember when she did a track for Tribe, was it Once Again?
Once
When she's
again, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, oh goodness, all of a sudden, I got the album because of that, because Tammy's on this, and people might not remember she was on Super Thug. She was the one on Super Thug. What Super Thug with Nori. That's her doing all the vocals and that. People thought it was Khalees, but it was her. So yeah, Tammy just had a distinct voice that was like honey. So that's yeah. Is it good to you? Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a thing to put a singer in your top 10 that's really only had one record out.
I'm gonna tell you,
it's quite
Tammy,
quite an addition.
Yeah, that's a good one. And when I in terms of, how when you watch a movie and you see like an actor who, like, they don't have a prominent scene, a prominent role in the movie, but they steal the scenes every time. You got certain actors that do that. That's the equivalent of what Tammy Lucas was doing on those records, with the backgrounds, with the stacked vocals. She's a major part of the record. If you pull her out of that record, it really doesn't work. And then I love, when I was studying her records, and I was like ear candy, just hearing her voice, and I'm seeing her name on the writer's credits or whatever, and just, and there's a record I tell people to go back and, when Teddy and Gene and them were still together, right before it was over, Teddy had produced a group called Starpoint, and they had them called "Have You Got What It Takes," and you listen to the song "Have You Got What It Takes" by Starpoint, and Tammy Lucas, you can hear her singing on it, but she wrote the song, and when you listening to her sing, the person, her name is Renee Diggs, she's singing the vocal, but you hearing it, she's singing it the way Tammy wrote the song. It's like Tammy did the reference vocals and Renee sang it in the same way that Tammy did. And when you listen to Tammy's lyrics, it's like if it's written down and you read it, it's impactful the same way as if someone is singing it, whether she's singing it or whether someone's singing it. But I tell everybody, go back at the end of the show and go listen to "Have You Got What It Takes" by Starpoint, and you'll hear Tammy's influence, the writing and the vocal arrangement. So unsung unsung person. Yeah.
She wrote a track for Stephanie Mills with Teddy. Yeah.
Yes.
There is one thing I do want to put straight though.
Was it Real Love? What's the
I think
song
it is.
she wrote with?
That's
a beautiful record, man.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful record.
Because I did watch the interview, and she was talking about "Tonight's the Night," and she said she wrote the verses and the melody. The only thing I will contest about that is the melody, which it's an Isaac Hayes record. "Tonight's the Night" is an Isaac Hayes record.
Yeah,
the whole
it's called "Tonight's the Night." It's "Tonight's the Night."
It's called
and then another thing too.
The Isaac Hayes record.
Go. And then also,
yeah. And the first thing out of his mouth is "Tonight's the Night." So let's get that correct today. It's an Isaac Hayes record. She might have wrote the verses, but the whole melody comes from Isaac. Teddy ripped that record off.
Teddy he basically replayed it over. And then also too, Ray Parker Jr. did a record called "Tonight's the Night," and you hear it. There's like the similarities with both of them. But yeah, that record, when you listen to that, the whole night, Teddy's replaying the whole Isaac Hayes joint from, like you said, from the 70s, man. But her writing those lyrics, you know how like when somebody writes to a melody, like people say they write to tracks. Okay, people write the tracks, but the lyrics they write the tracks, to me, a lot of times they're throwaway. But when you're talking about writing to tracks and making the lyrics, it's a glove fit to the track. man, nobody does that better than Tammy Lucas as a writer, as a singer-songwriter on the R&B side, man. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah.
Yes. So that's
But
my
listen
first.
to that. Yeah.
Yes.
Listen to Have You Got What It Takes, and you can just tell her the style. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Sack Stevie for his number 4.
Got to say, honourable mention to Renee Diggs, the star point, the late Renee Diggs. She had a great voice as well.
Yes. Yes. Very sexy
She had a
voice.
solo album.
Yes.
She released one song, Expansion Records, which was it was recorded in the early 90s, but didn't come out till about 10 years after. But that's worth checking out. Renee,
Yes.
number
4.
Number 4 we on.
Yeah. I think it's
Jackson.
me. Oh,
Janet
okay.
Jackson.
Go ahead.
In my number 4. I kind of have an on and off relationship with Janet Jackson. But obviously Control, this album, and the couple of albums after it were, again, great run. Iconic artist. This album in particular, when I did see her live in Birmingham, I did see the Rhythm Nation tour. I do love this album. This album is Jam and Lewis's version of New Jack Swing, I think.
And I love the fact that on that album, she's giving you each song kind of like stands on its own. She's giving you, and it's a testament to her vocal performance that she can, because she got Black Cat, you got Rhythm Nation, and when all of those records, All Right, All Right was like the new Jack.
The groove, in the ballads, the ballads. It's just a brilliant album from start to finish. The only love, it's just the vocal. It's just the vocal. And again, she's riding off the back of her brother's name, really. But she got all because of what she was. But you can't deny it. Janet Jackson, huge artist. She's in at number 4, part of the new Jack.
She came in really. She really came into her own off of Control, and you talking about combination. You talking about 3-album combination. The Control album in '86. Then you come around back in 90 when you're doing the Rhythm Nation album. Then 93 you hit him with the Janet album. Oh my God, that's how love goes. Just really, and then it just shows how Jam and Lewis was able to adapt to the times. I really wasn't a big fan of the Velvet Rope, but I love how she came back, All For You, in 2001 with the chain sample and all of that. But you got to give it to her, man. Janet Jackson created the lane to where she created a lane for singers to where you didn't have to get out there and sing like Whitney Houston and Patti LaBelle. She kind of orchestrated that lane for people to come out. Don't get me wrong, there was some other people, Stacey Lattisaw, some other folks, but Janet Jackson comes out into a lane where now, boom. So now you got Janet, you got Jody, you got this, you got that one. Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. All of those people, man. You gotta give it to Janet.
I'll tell you what she did.
My number.
About 4 years ago, she released like an Afrobeats record, Afrobeats reggaeton record, which didn't really take off. If she'd have released that now, it'd be huge. I listened to it the other day and I thought, she released it before Afrobeats blew up. She waited, released it now. I think it would have brought Janet back into the charts.
Yeah, when she did with the Demeter Joe album, and I know there are people who love that album. It was like now, because remember, by the time she does the Demeter Joe album, this is probably maybe like about, I don't know, 2004 or something like that, 2005. Now she's been out for like 30. She's been out for like what, 84 or 82 was her first record. So she's already been out for over 20 years. So now Beyonce and this one is hitting. So she's trying to skew younger or whatever that is, but you got to give it to her, man. And then still a concert draw. Got to give it to her.
So who's your
number 4? Stephanie Mills.
Wow. Okay.
Stephanie Mills. Stephanie Mills. You're talking about a person obviously can sing like nobody's business. And then when you look at Stephanie Mills now, you know, like a lot of older singers, people were out years ago. You hear them sing, and they lost the step. Man, Stephanie Mills, man, and then she was able to transcend the different styles of R&B quietly, and then come out with, like, you know, consecutive gold and platinum #1 albums. Just, you know, that window between the album that Stevie had, that was a #1 album. She had another, man, she just had a lot of I Feel Good all over. Just, man, you know, Stephanie. And then here's the one, singing. She's not dancing. There's no dancing going on. It's just straight singing. And of course, she can do gospel music too. I love it, man. I think, you know, being on stage, she just kills it, man. So she had a good run. You talking about, and then think about it. We forget about the records that she did with James and Tume and Reggie Lucas. What You Gonna Do With My Lovin', Put Your Body Into It, Sweet Sensation, Too Hard. You know, so if you the late 80s, mid-late 80s, she was doing it. But go back to the late 70s and early 80s, man. She had some big records back then too. So yeah, Stephanie is putting the rush on me. Yes. Dawn D, oh man, Gladys Knight. I forgot to have her on. She went on my list. Yeah. Go ahead.
My number 4 might surprise people, but it's the Voice, Miss Whitney Houston.
Why would that surprise people?
Well, because they're assuming she's the best of the best. But I think I loved her. What was the album she had? The Heartbreak Hotel.
1998 album. It's not right, but it's okay.
Yeah, I actually did. I really liked that album. But just you know, you have to give it to Whitney for just the fact that she was just unique. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate with her with a drug or stuff, which just affected her as she got older and stuff like that. But she was just raw and emotional talent, and she just sang church at a level that most people weren't used to. I mean, you know, others came through with that, but you know, I loved stuff like All the Man That You Want to Be. I just loved her, just her had the unique style. Yeah, as I said, sad how it tapered off, but she was just an amazing talent, whether it's live or whether it's on record. It was different, and as you guys have said earlier, it affected the careers of other people. Phyllis Hyman, Stephanie Mills, not Stephanie Mills, Nikki Howard, everyone else suffered as a result of, if they could get this black female artist to sell that many records, we need to get off black female artists to do the same. And then all of a sudden, you know, they were chasing the numbers and not the talent, and which affected everyone else. But no one could take it away that she was a unique talent.
Probably one of the greatest voices of all time. You're talking about there.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, as I said, we know about the demons. We know about the later parts. You know, her marriage to Bobby. It didn't. You know, it's always sad when it detracts from the talent, when the whole circus and stuff behind it and all this stuff took away from that. But we got to appreciate, and we got to experience a lot of amazing tracks from her. Yeah.
This is something that school kids don't get to experience these days, because I don't think they have them. School discos. Did any of you go to a school disco back in the 80s?
Well, I don't think they use the word discos as maybe.
We'd have a school disco at the end of term, but I remember going. Just a great.
Like, you guys have not homecoming, but it's like an end of year school.
Yeah, we went to like a disco prom type of thing, and I Want to Dance with Somebody was playing, and I had a huge crush on this girl at the time, and I started dancing, and she was there in front of me, and she started dancing, and I remember we kind of walked home in a big group, and I had this big, and I just never forgot. I want to dance with somebody. Never, I must admit, I didn't get into Whitney Houston, even though, like, I think I stole my auntie's LP with that album on, the LP on. But I didn't really appreciate Whitney, like a lot of people, till later on. Whitney at the time was being blasted by the black community for making too many pop records. That's what was going on at the time. Let's not overshadow this. So by the time It's Not Right came out, that's when she put that straight.
I love that album.
Did get behind her then, because that was, you know, a really good album. You know.
Yeah.
Those are some good stories when you talk about Whitney Houston, because she comes out, she endured, man. She comes out in the lane where she's singing, and it's kind of like now she puts like an exclamation point on the soulful singing that defines what a female singer is. And now she's singing those records, and you know, and then by the time she comes out with the second, and because it's like people loved her, the first album, and then it was like 87 rolls around, the Whitney album comes out, and how will I, you know, it was just to the point where people kind of like, and I think like what you're saying, Stevie, I remember it like yesterday. A lot of I seen it in the Jet magazines, and it was just really bad for her, because this was also during a time when a lot of groups were coming out and they were doing their take on R&B records, and they were doing better with their take. I'm talking about like British groups like ABC, and it was just so many of them. They were doing Motown style records. They were doing their version, their take on those records. And then the people who originated the music, you know, they couldn't get on the radio. It was, you know, they were like, oh, you're old, you know. And these people were like maybe 40 years old at the time or whatever. But Whitney Houston came out with the second album. People were kind of like turned off, man, because the records were like, they were pop records. And, you know, people just like you said. And when you look in terms of that, you know, the black audience, when you look at the demise of Whitney Houston, the blood, you can say to a certain degree, is on our hands, man, because in 85 and 86, they loved her. But by the time 87, 88 rolled around, she was like a pariah, man. And then finally, you know, then she comes out with the Bodyguard. The record is big, you know, but like you said, coming back out with the Heartbreak Hotel album, you know, what's my man, Wyclef, and everybody doing records with her. It put her right back in the vein of a straight R&B record, which was really dope. And that was her last great album. And then I loved, she tried to come out with the sample with the Ozzy Brothers, One of Those Days. That was a dope record, but they were trying to steer her back into the big sales. But yeah, Whitney Houston,
I mean, our guys from Basic Black, Spec and KB, they produced 2 tracks on that album. They did a track called Oh Yeah with Missy Elliott, and they did a track called what was it? In My Business with Missy Elliott. So KB and Spec, so the 2 guys from Basic Black. I was surprised that they did the production on that. I thought it was a sample. And they said, so I mean, it did over 10 million worldwide. It was an R&B track. She had, you know, she even had David Foster do I Learned from the Best. So, you know, he kind of spiced it up a little bit for the pop artists and stuff. But yeah, that's Whitney. What
was the name of the album she did with Ellie and Babyface? What was that? Is it I'm Your Woman or something? I can't remember.
That was My Name's Not Susan.
Yeah, what was that album called?
My Name's Not Susan. Right. As a matter of fact, that was her way of trying to come back to the R&B side. I forgot
I'm Your
about
Baby
that.
Tonight.
Backlash.
I'm Your Baby
She's got
Tonight.
a great song there. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, she's got a great song on that right called Miracle. Very
there was
good.
two tracks. There was a couple of songs she recorded for that album that were left off the album, and they made B-sides. And for me, the best tracks she's ever made. One of them's called Dancing on a Smooth Edge. It's like a 6-minute B-side track.
Okay.
It's an incredible record. And the other track is called Feel So Good, produced by Jeff Lorber. Again, it was on a B-side of a CD single. It might have been My Name is Susan. But 2 really great Whitney tracks that if you're into soul and R&B, you will not be disappointed when you hear those records. It should have been on the album. But
dope.
You know.
Dope singer, man.
So Stevie, who makes you?
No. My number 3. Who's it? My turn.
Stevie goes number 3. No, Stevie.
Okay.
All right. Oh, sorry. What number are we at?
Number 3.
Right. Okay. The next three artists for me could have been number 1. This is how hard it could have been number 1 because I just hold them so dear. This artist, I hold my hands up. I was just besotted by the way she looked. That's first one. Just absolutely, to this day,
J-Lo.
I'm still just besotted by how amazing she looks. You could argue she didn't have the best voice in the world.
Yeah.
But she was an icon and she opened the doors for so many other artists. And she had an incredible run on MCA Records. It's Miss Jodie Watley, isn't it, number 3? Obviously, a career with Shalimar's well documented. But for me, when she went, this album, I love this album so much. 87. It does transcend pop, dance, new jack, R&B. It's got it all, dance. It's just, I love this. It sounds a bit dated now. I can't deny it, but produced by Andre Simone. But I love this album, and this is the album where she grew up a bit and went more soul R&B. Your Love Keeps Working on Me. Some great ballads on this, and obviously the album in between had Friends on it, which was
Larger Than Life.
Worldwide. Yeah, that had a worldwide.
Larger Than Life. I love that album.
But Jodie Watley could have been.
You listen to that album, whoever.
Go ahead, Sheldon.
A few surprises there.
Wow.
Yeah, but Jodie Watley, man. Oh. It's just because I'm in love with her. You know what I mean? Okay. I'm mesmerized by her. To this day.
Yeah.
Sheldon, who makes you number 3?
The Larger Than Life album, if you put that album on, Larger Than Life, whoever engineered that album sonically, excellent album. Yeah. The sounds, oh my God. Just whoever mixed and engineered that album, very good. Yeah, Real Love.
Oh, and an honorable mention to a guy who wrote a song on that album, and he also wrote something on this album as well. A guy called Gardner Cole, who he was a songwriter, had a few albums out for Warner Brothers, but he's friends with Jodie Watley. I have become friends with him recently via Instagram and via an interview, but you know he's good friends with Jodie Watley. He wrote a track called Everything, which was one of Jodie Watley's big hits in America as well, big R&B hit. Great record.
Beautiful record. Beautiful record.
Pains me she's not number 1, but you'll understand shortly who makes my number 2 number 1.
Sheldon, who's your number 3?
Number 3 for me is Phyllis Hyman. Phyllis Hyman is my number 3. When you go back to Phyllis Hyman, her ability to deliver a song and then just sing different genres of different styles of music, but she could be sexy without being sexy, without being visually sexy. You know, her records, just her being able to deliver records, like you said, going back to the 70s, the Buddha era, and then of course my favorite all-time record, like you said, going back to Ain't You Had Enough Love. That was on the Living All Alone album. So that album was just really, really great. So when you look at like what Mary J. Blige was doing with like those other albums that she was doing, Phyllis Hyman was kind of doing the same thing with the type of songs that she had. She had those torch songs, you know, and then of course those up-tempo records like You Know How to Love Me. She had another one as well. Under Your Spell was another mid-tempo joint that she had, but 86, Living All Alone, and then the album The Prime of My Life, that was like her comeback record, you know, first number 1 album. Chin Beach, you're definitely right, when she was rocking with Bet You By Golly Wow with Norman Connors, you know, but she was one of those ones that had issues with the fact that there were younger artists that were coming in that was getting the shine, and they were really advancing in their career, where her career was stalled. Believe it or not, Clive Davis, she was the warm-up for Clive Davis to be able to work with female R&B singers. She was the very first. And from Clive Davis, he went from Dionne Warwick. From Dionne Warwick, he went to Whitney Houston. From Whitney Houston, you know, the list goes on. He was dealing with Alicia Keys. She was the warm up. She was the warm up for that. The same way when you look at who was it? Pharrell and the Neptunes, when they were dealing with Tammy Lucas. Tammy Lucas was like the warm up for them to be able to know how to work with female artists like a Khalees and everybody else who they're dealing with after, man. But yeah, Phyllis Hyman, I would just say she's majestic. And the best thing I can, for people who don't really know who she is, Phyllis Hyman was Adele before Adele. You know, the moody records that Adele had, you know, like the most recent record, the Adele album she had, she's flirting with depression and all of this. And it was well received. But when Phyllis Hyman was going through her issues, you had to kind of keep that secret. She spoke her mind. She pushed back against Clive Davis. She could be kind of difficult here and there, but check out an article that I did on my Souls of Black Notes site. I wrote an essay about Phyllis Hyman. She was Adele before Adele, you know. So that's my number 3. Yeah.
Okay.
So I
yeah.
made it, Shell, because I was thinking, you must know all about this. This is Sheldon entry, you know what I mean? But again, she affected me deeply, you know, voice and everything, you know. So I'm glad she's getting the props in this podcast, even though she wasn't New Jack Swing. But anyway, go on, Namdi.
Yeah, my number 3 has been mentioned. She sounds like an angel. And when she first came out, she worked with 2 people who wrote and produced my all-time favorite song. And so she did the part 2 of that. You Put a Move in My Heart was written by Rod Temperton and produced by Quincy Jones, the same guys who did Lady in My Life. And her intonation when she sings, and this is Tamir, it's just something that is just out of this world. I love. I just loved how she, you know, There's a Stranger in My House. That was another track she did, but I just love how she sounds different, and I loved how unique her voice is. As I said, I actually wanted to be higher. Strangely enough. I love the song she did with Eric Benet. When I
Yes.
Need You. I can't remember the song. I can't even remember I can't remember the name of the track. Spend My Life with You.
Yeah.
As I said, it's you know, when we talk about female singers and we're talking about our favorite, it was really about those who, when you hear their voice, you know it's different from somebody else and has an effect on you, and that's definitely Tamir for me. I've been trying to get her on the show from day one. You know, when she's married, but she's married to Grant Hill, so she, you know, she does shows almost. She's touring right now. She's going to be touring in the new year with Joe, and you know, she's settled and stuff. So she's just, so she's hard to get a hold of. But I'm still going to be working on that. But yeah, I love Tamir. I wanted to let her know how much I appreciate her voice and how much she's does so different, just so unique. And I just loved her. So Tamir, definitely for me. We're down to the top 2. So number 2, Stevie.
Just a few honourable mentions to some big vocalists that didn't quite make my top 10. Patti LaBelle, come on, guys.
Okay, yeah.
You know, Gladys Knight, again, around in the 90s, made some good swing tracks on this album. Huge vocal. Tawaffa worked with M2 May.
Oh wow, yeah.
Real gem, great voice, great album to have. Layla Hathaway killed me for her not to be in the top 10 because she's part.
I got that a moment
and worked with Chucky Booker. Wow, Tina Marie. You know, it's just what a run she had.
Man, I forgot about Tina Marie. Oh, Stevie.
Again, why is she not in the top 10? Vesta Williams did some great stuff, late 80s, early 90s. She passed away, hasn't she?
Yes.
Oh, God, Vesta Williams. And
yeah, you might be able to find an unsung episode on YouTube,
yes,
man.
And this lady doesn't get talked about. She's still going. Sue Ann Carwell made a couple of really good albums for MCA Records, did some good swing stuff. But number 2 goes to, I'll be honest, I didn't get into her at the time, in the 80s, I didn't get into it until about 96, 97. I'll be honest, it's personal, this, because music has got me through hard times when I've just felt down and I needed to just, and you know when you feel down, you wondered how you get out of that down period. Just someone I listen to when I'm just down, and it just eventually gets me out of that down period, and so it's kind of personal to me. And again, she's an artist that has transcended like generations, and like the youthful generation have picked up on her and took her to, like with Aaliyah, they've took to her. So, which shows me she was part of a group, but you wouldn't know that because it's just of the single name on the album. But this could be my second surprise edition in this top 10. There's no New Jack Swing in this at all.
I know.
It's not like you either love this girl or you just don't. You either realize, I don't know, there's a lot of, I know people who just don't like her music at all. But number 2 could have been, killed me to not be at number 1. But Sade is just, oh, man. It's a growing up thing, and you know, I can just play music now, and just Sade's number 2. Could have been number 1 though.
Yeah.
And if you think about music, it's got let's just put it out there. If you're feeling a bit down, a bit depressed, music does kind of get you. It gets you out of that vibe. It kind of, I can't explain it. There's a track they made called "It's Hard to Make a Living," you know, from about '85, and the video, and it was shot in London, and it sums up what's going on now with the cost of living, and it's hard to make a living, and again, so ahead of the time. But Sade, you know, Paradise, she's made so many hits.
Yeah, her music is,
I believe they have made a new album. There is a new album in the can. For it.
Very therapeutic. You know,
yes,
I saw her in concert twice.
That's the one.
And if you see, man, when she ever comes back out, you got to go see her. You got to go see her. I know when the first time I saw her, she ran through her catalog, and then people were getting ready to leave. And she came back out to do an encore, and people just ran back for her to go ahead and do her songs or whatever. Man, it was, Sade is dope, bro. Sade is dope. Yeah, man, I forgot about Sade, man. That's a good option. And for me, man, I almost want to change my list, man. I only got 2 people left. I'm gonna stick with what I got. For me, my number 2, and I got to do honorable mention to Shaka Khan and Mariah Carey. You know, Shaka Khan was one. You talking them back to being Rufus, doing folk music, and then she can veer off and do R&B. She could do jazz, and just do, you know, she doesn't really, when you look in terms of her versatility, she doesn't get enough. They don't people, I guess because her career's been so long. But her versatility and being able to deliver records, and of course Mariah Carey being able to, and her versatility in her own way to start out doing super pop records, you know, and then finding a new life doing R&B hip hop soul records, and just really having a long run where, and I give credit because they were trying to make her into a pop artist, man. And she was young at the time, like 20, 21 years old. And she rebelled against it and was able to push back. And I think that by her doing those hip hop R&B records, even though she had the records, other songs, it gave her career a whole new life. Those are my honorable mentions. But my number 2 is Anita Baker. And the reason why Anita Baker is my number 2 is Anita Baker came in the lane where it wasn't like the soul singer like Aretha Franklin or Patti LaBelle or Gladys Knight. She didn't have the pop confectionery pop records that Whitney had. She just had a traditional Quiet Storm vocal that style, to where I remember when she came out with the Rapture album, and I think that, man, everybody's mother bought that album, man. It was just a simple album, and it just really resonated with people, and she kind of like created a lane. And I remember 3 years ago when she came out with her first record, like Angel, and I was about, I don't know, 14, 15. I was like, man, this record is just boring. But then I dug into the album years later when I started buying music at 17, 18, 19 years old. I was like, man, the Songstress album was a masterpiece. And then for her to just go through Rapture and giving you the best that I got, and then she took some time off and came back with an album in '94 with Gordon Chambers, I Apologize. Just really, really doing it. So I got to give her a lot of credit for her making really just traditional music, top quality music. And she didn't have to dance. She didn't have to try to rap. She didn't have to do super pop records or try to scream or do soul records. So that's why my number 2 is Anita Baker.
Wow, yeah. I had $100 bet that Sheldon would put Anita Baker at number 1, so I've lost me $100 now. I thought she nailed on number 1 for you, Sheldon.
Hey man, now you can take some. Now you can take their money and buy some more CDs, man. You're good. You're good.
I've just lost it. I've lost $100.
Hey man,
yeah, she's my number 2.
$100.
No, Anita's my number 2 as well.
Wow, but 2. You two have clashed it. Well,
yeah. I mean, but think about. She's like, just think about, fairy godmother when you just feel as if all is down and she just tries to sing you to bed or just tries to lift you up. She tells stories with her songs in such in her own way, in her own pace. I love Anita, because we're talking about artists who they're distinct in their vocals and in their style. They weren't trying to copy anyone. They were just being themselves, and it just set a stone. And anyone who's gone on her shows now would tell you the same, that she just sings her heart out. I love that. When she came back with I Apologize in the midst of the 90s, after everyone saying, oh, you missed those Tony Braxton records, it was, she sat on a chair singing I Apologize, and it just felt like, she was timeless. She's timeless. And I know, I'm sure industry politics, with Warner Brothers affected her releasing more albums, because they're like,
with Electra Records. And I love the fact, and she was one of the few.
Maybe she wasn't playing ball, but
Sheldon, Namdi's freezing on us.
What happened? Go ahead, Sheldon.
No, you were freezing on us. I was just saying that she was the one that she started to be taking control of her career, and she started getting really criticized for that. They were really, she was very particular about everything. And, of course, sometimes she might have been over the top, but, it was like what Mickey Howard wasn't able to do, and a lot of other female artists weren't able to do. She came in and she just maintained that quality, sang the records that she wanted to sing. So yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Okay, Stevie, who's your number 1? Before you do number 1, make sure you do your top 10.
Okay, number 20. Or number 20, I had Keisha Jackson, who did Mama Told Me with the Untouchables, 2 good New Jack albums. Number 19 was Faith Evans. Number 18 was Jackie McGee. Number 17 for me was a tie between Brandy and Monica, for obvious reasons. 16 was Shanice. 15 was Tony Braxton. 14 was Pebbles. 13 Angie. 12 Layla Hathaway. 11 Phyllis Hyman. 10 was Misha Paris. 9 was Karen White. 8 was Sheena Easton. 7 Lisa Stansfield. 6 Leah. 5 Mary J. Blige. 4 Janet Jackson. 3 Jodie Watley. 2 was Sade. And for my number 1, it's a shocking addition, this. A big shock to a lot of people. Controversy. Controversies is definitely a name, with this, very controversial, this. You could say shocking, controversial, go very well with this artist. Number 1. We all love a holiday. We all love a holiday.
I know what you're gonna say,
and some of you
gonna give it away.
Out there, sometimes you have to listen to your Papa Don't Preach.
What?
Yes. But my number one goes to an artist that can literally do any genre, and
Take a bow. Take a bow.
and can has influenced a generation, 30, 40 years of female artists, incredibly single-minded, did anything and everything to get to the top, which she did. Probably the biggest selling female artist of all time. It's got to go to Madonna for me. Huge artist for me. I loved her growing up, and that's never changed. Like I say, controversial because she's pop, but she did a lot of R&B. Worked with Reggie Lucas and Jelly Bean on this album. This was you could say these two were like a blackest albums in terms of R&B or
she did one with Timbaland and Justin Timberlake.
This will appeal to the more
Bedtime Stories. I love that one. Yeah,
she got Dallas Austin on the
Babyface. Yeah,
but it was where it all started.
Is that Bedtime Stories?
Yeah.
It had Human Nature with Dallas and Take a Bow and.
Listen, this album, the first album, Lucky Star. I mean, Borderline. That's a soul record.
Yeah.
Pops, brilliant pops are Burning Up. Holiday, physical and everybody, physical attracts and everybody. They're like 80s soul grooves, disco boogie grooves then. So she was ahead of her time. But Madonna trumps them all for me. And she always, biggest regret is not seeing her live in the 80s. That is my biggest all-time regret. I've not got to see her, and I should have done. Because tickets to see Madonna now are just ridiculous. She's going on tour. So
she's on tour right now. She's
someone in the comments there. Again, she worked with Gardner Cole, wrote one of her big records as well. Shout to Gardner Cole. But what a career Madonna's had. What a career. It's been incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and she did stuff with Nile Rodgers, Yeah.
She's worked with everybody. She's worked with everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Nile Rodgers did the Like a Virgin album.
Yeah.
That was the album that basically blew her up. That was, that was it from everything from there. It just, just went off, didn't it, really, for her? But shock addition to my number.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned before that you loved Madonna. Well, when we spoke to Samuel, you did mention when he mentioned the who's that girl?
That would have But I said in the last.
Speaking of that, when you talk about Samuel not able to go on tour, Club Nouveau not going to go on tour with Madonna, the Force MDs wound up replacing them. They went on tour with Madonna instead of Club Nouveau. Because at that time they had a big record out in '87 or whatever, coming off of Tender Love and all the other stuff, and they wound up taking Club Nouveau's spot to go on tour with Madonna. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean I think the Bedtime Secrets was one of the first Madonna albums that I did buy. I mean, I've of course grown up with like Papa Don't Preach and all that stuff, but to actually go out and buy was the Bedtime Stories because it was a straight up R&B album. And I do have to give it to Madonna that's the fact that she would say, okay, let me do something different. So she kept everyone guessing, but changing producers. And, Dallas got he talks about how he got the best out of her. And then I loved what Babyface always knew how to get his sound across, and she's delivered it perfectly in that. Secrets, everything. That was a good album.
I want to do this stuff again, to be quite honest. I want to go back to the 80s and make an 80s pop dance groove album because this was the best sound for me. But it was raw. She was so raw then and so young, but that's youth for you. That is youth. And no, I'm not trolling. She's my number one female artist of all time.
I saw a video of her. Somebody posted a video on her on Facebook, and she's dancing with her tour mates. And mind you, she's killing it, man. She's killing the choreography. And at this time, she's got the crazy heels on, and they're rehearsing. And this has got to be like, I don't know, man. This got to be like 2004. And at this point, she got to be about like, I don't know, about 45 years old, man. And she's killing it with the heels and the dancing and yeah, man.
You look at big pop artists that have come after her, like Britney Spears, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, they're all influenced by Madonna. You can see the influence in them, you know. You can see it. Even Jodie Watley, you could say, did Madonna influence Jodie Watley? Did Jodie Watley influence? I don't know, but you've got two versions of the same artist almost there. You know what I mean? In terms of, like, you know, with that crossover sound, you know.
But the thing is with Jodie is that when Jodie went to England, that was the move. When Jodie went to England, she was inspired about what was going on in the UK, and she back, and it was unique that she went ahead and just did a record that was totally different from like the Shalimar record she was doing. Of course, they had a lot to do with Andre Simone, you know, doing those records. But yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yes. Sheldon, what about you? You want to go run down your top 10 before number 1?
Yeah, my 10. Well, it was Brandy at number 10, Tamia at number 9, Shantae Moore at number 8, Mary J. Blige at number 7, Toni Braxton at number 6, Mickey Howard at number 5, Stephanie Mills number 4, Phyllis Hyman number 3, Anita Baker number 2. And before I hit my number 1, Chin Beach, thank you for reading my essay. I need for you to put your email in the chat so I can write it down, so I can send you some other joints that you may like. You like the Keep Sweat? There's another Keep Sweat that I wrote as well. You might like that one and some other things. So Chin Beats, put your email in the chat. My number 1 is Whitney Houston.
Okay.
You know, we talked about, you know, who she was, and, you know, Whitney Houston is the one who rerouted everything. She rerouted everything in terms of what it was to be a female singer. She raised the profile of a female singer, because female R&B singers weren't really getting a lot of love. It was more about the pop singers, you know, going into the 80s, and this whole soulful situation was dying out. It wasn't popular anymore. Everything was going to electronic music, and, you know, the whole big voice soulful situation. You know, it was, or you had to be in the pop vein. You saw Aretha Franklin was going on that way with Freeway of Love, and, you know, you were going in that realm, man. But Whitney comes out as a young singer, 22 years old, and obviously, you know, you got to give it to Clive and what he was doing and trying to build her, and he was the one that really picked out the certain songs for her to sing, and she delivered, man, you know, and she's the turning point. So if you're not, when you look at her now, just looking at the level of talent, being able to put those records across, and then just do, like you said, the Heartbreak Hotel album, just now you're changing gears. You're moving away from who you were dealing with before on the production side, and, you know, so I would say, what are we? This is we coming up on 2024.
Yeah.
So Whitney's first record was 40 years ago. 40 years ago, she did a record with Teddy Pendergrass. And I remember they did it when she first came out with Jermaine Jackson. He was working with her, and they said, well, we got a new singer by the name of Whitney Houston. This is about 83, 84. I'm like, man, that's why I'll never be an A&R. I was about 15, and I was like, you know, but think about it, man. Whitney Houston is it. You know, sad that she's not here.
Miss her so much. Wow.
Yeah.
Miss her, man.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of things she went through, but in the end, the music, think about it, man. People talk about the streaming and this, that, and the other, but those albums that she's putting out loud, I think like the first album went diamond now. The second album went diamond. You know, that TV 55. That's the reason why Whitney didn't win the best new artist new artist record in 85, because she put out a record with Teddy Pendergrass, Hold Me. So she was already considered, she wasn't considered a new artist because she put out a record at that particular time. Just the same way with the Jodie Watley, Stevie, that they were trying to say, well, you can't be a best new artist because you came out with Shalimar, but she was a solo act and she won the best new artist Grammy, man. But Whitney Houston's catalog, so many great gems.
Okay.
You know, she's got three diamond albums, man. You talking about the first one, which is the Whitney Houston album. The second one is the Whitney album. And then obviously it may be the Heartbreak Hotel album. That's number 3.
The Bodyguard.
Then she was, the club. She was also in the club, in the house, DJ stuff. Shout out to Jarrell. So yeah.
Okay.
So many things we can talk about, but it's just my number 1.
Okay. I mean, I'll run through. I didn't have like Stevie top 20, but I had some honorable mentions, which was Fantasia. I think live performance, she's probably one of the best. Fantasia,
very unique voice.
She has such a she's unique. Angie Stone, she's Angie Stone holding his stuff down. As I mentioned, Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill, I think she was, industry politics affected her creativity. I mentioned Jackie McDee, Shantae Savage, Patti LaBelle, Shantae Moore, and in my top 3. But I'm just looking at. So I had number 10. I had my list seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So my number 10 was A. Marie. My number 9 was Beyonce. Number 8 was Faith Evans. Number 7 was Mary J. Blige. Number 6 was Coco. Number 5 was Tammy Lucas. Number 4 was Whitney Houston. Number 3 was Tamir. Number 2 was Anita Baker.
Got my $100 bet on Namdi now. I think I'm going to win this.
Yeah. So my number 1 is for my fellow country lady, who is, I know. Yeah, Stevie, you mentioned her, and then it's Sade. As a vocalist, it's I think.
What, Sade's your number 1?
She's my number 1.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about Karen. I thought Karen White was going to be your number 1. Because she's your new best friend. I'm shocked. I'm shocked. Sade's number 1.
Sade, yes. Sade.
Or maybe Celine Dion,
Wow, I did not see that coming. I've just lost $100, but I didn't see that. I honestly thought it was Karen White.
When we were building, as I said, personally, I love Karen and I love Jackie. So like these are
top 10.
These are ladies. I mean, Karen is a massive supporter of us, and Jackie.
Karen White's going to fall out with you now.
I love her. If we're doing albums, I would always pick her debut album. But the thing about Sade, as you mentioned about the mood and stuff, is that even when she did No Ordinary Love, she came out with Your Love Is King. She came out with Soldier of Love was her last album, the last album that they came out with, and consistency, just that consistency. I mean, she is. I've never seen her live, but just the fact that she's reclusive. You can't see. She doesn't do interviews anymore. She's hardly anywhere. It just shows that she comes out. Okay, I know Stuart Matthews is talking about new album. They'll do the album, do a tour, and then she'll disappear. I mean, she just takes it to another level. But as I kept saying and I learned my lesson when we did our top producers, and I was putting Quincy Jones. He's not my favorite. And I kind of missed the plot when we did that. So when I was doing this particular list, I'm like, who do I listen to today? If I put it on right now, I know where it's gonna take me. That I know anytime I listen to anything, I know consistent. I know Sade, I know Anita Baker, I know Tamir. So I knew. So for Sade, there's, everyone loves Sade, and it's just a vibe. She's a vibe. That's the thing. She's created a vibe.
Listen, let's not forget here. We're talking, and I keep reminding myself of this. We're talking like she's a solo artist. It's a band. Sade is a band.
Well, we talk about singers. Remember, like Coco is
Sade is actually a band. There's a band member in there called Stuart Matheson.
Yeah.
And you go and read the credits of one of the greatest albums that released in the 90s by a guy called Maxwell. He produced the Maxwell album, which is one of the greatest albums of the 90s for me. His debut album is produced by Stuart Matheson. Who is Sade?
Then he did the Sweetback album, which was really good too.
Yeah. Who was that girl? Did he do the girl that was? I can't remember. Sweetback also had, what was she called? She was part of Groove Theory. What was she called?
Amel LaRue.
Yeah, she
Amel
sang.
LaRue.
She sang on Sweetback as well. So it's all linked. Sade is linked into other things, but let's remember here, Sade is a group.
But I'm talking about the
I
Sade
know, but
Adu,
as a singer,
who's the singer.
so
She is
let's not
this.
forget that.
So yeah, so none of the others. I'm only focusing on the
Yeah.
singer Sade, her, and not the group. If I said who's my favorite, yeah, as a singer vocalist,
Sade
she's
Allure. Is it Allure a second name?
I do Sade
I
Adu.
I do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Sade
Falasha
Adu.
Day I
Yeah,
do. Yeah.
yeah. So as I said, just vocally, as I said, she's just a vibe with everything she does. But as I said, yeah, and I know the group will come up with a new album, but I know listening to her voice, definitely, I know that it won't disappoint. I've been trying to get Stuart Masterson on, but he's just been reclusive on not responding to invites to be on the album. Maybe he wants to get the album out the way first, and maybe we can get him then. But
It's
anyway,
very hard, with some of these artists, especially the recorded music 30 years ago. Do they even want to talk about it 30 years on? You just don't know, do you?
yeah,
What you're contending with. You dig in, you really, they might have memories at the time that are not good and they just don't want to relive them again. I understand. It's why some of them are so hard to get hold of.
yeah.
Namdi, do yourself a favor. Treat
Yeah.
yourself. When she comes to the UK, go.
Uh-huh.
You might have to rob somebody and beat somebody upside the head to buy a ticket. But I'm trying to tell you, man, it's worth going to jail for it. You know what I mean? You need to go see it. You too, Steve.
They're going to sell out instantly, though, aren't they?
Yeah, because it's they're going to sell. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see. But you guys, we want, yeah, as I said, this one took longer than the men, which was strange. This particular
there's a lot of different, deeper levels to female
yeah.
artists. Like you say,
as it should, though. As it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got two more shows before the end of the year. In 2 weeks' time, we've got
next week. Is it next week the new edition, or when is it?
So we've got a new edition that is on the, just looking at it here, is the 10th. So that's in 2 weeks' time.
So we've got a break next week.
We've got a break next week. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to do our new edition catalog. So this is from where the new edition album is going to be Johnny Gill, Ralph, BBDE, Bobby Brown. So we're going to put them and have our top 10 albums from the new edition.
That's a real comfort food edition, that, isn't it?
I mean, I've been working on that for the last 2 weeks, listening to the everyone's catalog and trying to see who's going to make my top 10. Johnny has 3-4 good albums, and Ralph and Bobby, so that's going to be a tough one. So yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to do our top. We're ranking them from 10 to 1, our favorites in the new edition catalog. Then on the 17th is and that hasn't come out yet, but then we're going to wrap up on the 17th is going to be our Christmas edition, where we're going to give you guys the link so you guys can come on in. And
we're not even sure what we're going to talk about there.
Yeah,
so we're going to see if you guys want to join us.
So we're going to give you the option to join in and have say a few things and stuff. So that's going to be our Christmas edition on the 17th, and that will come up soon. But as always, this show is only as good as you guys joining in and with the comments and supporting us. So we appreciate it. Apologies that this was longer than normal, but it was one of our favorite stuff. And as I said, we've got a week off, and then we're back on the 10th with new edition. So look through the new edition catalog, rank your top 10. It could be Don't Be Cruel, it could be Home Again, it could be any of them. Just rank them and see if anyone comes close to what we've got. Anyway, any final things, Sheldon and Stevie?
No, just second that emotion. Thank you. To the listeners, the family. Your comments and sharing your insight, and it just wouldn't be the same without having you here. So definitely appreciate that. Chin Beats, don't forget that email, baby. Yeah.
Okay. So SWV and Joe are coming to the UK. Well, I'm gonna need to get in touch with. Well, I don't know. I'll see if I'm feeling up to that to see them. But if not, I may try and catch them later. But anyway, Stevie, anything?
Yeah, just appreciate anybody who gives the time to watch the podcast. You know, there's a million other things you could be doing or watching, but it's very much appreciated. Checking us old guys out, going, you know, having our opinions.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, as I said, we're still working on how the Christmas edition is going to be. So, yeah, I've been trying to get Joe on the show, but you know, we'll see how 2024 comes in.
Hopefully, like Big Mike's will join us. And where's he gone? He left us early tonight. Forgot his name. Colin.
Yeah.
Colin and a few.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're gonna send a link so you guys can log in and join us. Come on live a few minutes and out and stuff. So it'll be different. It'll be interesting. So we'll see how.
You know, if you want to say your top 10 new Jack records, we'd like to hear them. You know,
yeah, and Christmas records and stuff. Yeah, so we'll work on what it is. Anyway, guys, so we want to thank you, and we'll see you guys on the 10th new edition top 10 catalog.